All right, everybody. Good morning again. Good morning again. I hope everybody's it's nice and satiated. You got your nourishment and nutrients for the day. Get our brains going. All right.
Make yourself comfortable.
Just want to make sure we're not catching anybody mid-chew or anything. All right. So thank you guys for being here. I am overwhelmed with just.
Can you speak up?
You want me to speak up?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm old and I'm having a hard time hearing.
No problem. I'm old too, and I'm having a hard time speaking. So good morning. I'm very happy to have all of you guys all in one place. It's nice seeing you guys periodically through the little squares on the screens, but it is so much more enjoyable to see you guys in person. So just wanted to express my gratitude and appreciation for all of you guys being here today. Thank you for hitting the music. I didn't realize it. So to get us started, I wanted to do a little grounding session. You guys remember last year we started our session in a similar fashion. So large meetings like this, I think it's a good idea for us to just ground with each other and do a little guided meditation. So I'm gonna ask for a little trust in me for the next few minutes, because I am gonna ask you to close your eyes. And I promise I won't be making any faces at you or doing anything that you need to keep an eye on. All right. I won't be taking any pictures. I'll save that for when you guys are eyes open. All right. So at this time, if you could get in a comfortable position. Normally, a comfortable position would be not laying on the floor, but if you want to, by all means, I just don't know how clean this is. But usually, feet on the floor, flat, back on the, pressed up against the lumbar support of your chairs. And then wherever you feel more comfortable with putting your hands. We often, as trainers, we gotta know what to do with our hands. How we're presenting. All right. So, actually, Mel, could you close that door for me? Thank you.
Wake up, everybody.
We all know it's close. One thing I would like to ask as well is before you close your eyes, I'm sorry, I should have said this. Unless you're that gifted, but if you could turn your phones on vibrate or just turn the notifications off just for a second. By all means, if you need to. That way, mid meditation, you won't get your favorite song that plays. My mother-in-law, her ringtone is like the hello moto, and there's a whole bunch of noises, and it always goes off at the most inappropriate time. Like she'll sit in church and it'll just start. All right, are we good with our devices? So. On cue. It's all right, as long as we catch it now. All right, so we good? We good? All right. So now you feel free to close your eyes, sitting in the most comfortable position for you. What I want for each of us to do is to start focusing on our breathing. And just acknowledge the breath that you are inhaling, as well as exhaling. Breathing in fully, breathing out fully. Whichever way is comfortable for you, through your nose, through your mouth, breathe in, breathe out. Keeping focus on your breathing, breathing in, and breathing out. keep that same tempo as I continue to talk. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. While you're breathing and acknowledging your breathing patterns, your natural breathing patterns, I want to bring your attention to your feet, feeling the support of the ground firmly underneath of your feet. Breathing in, breathing out. While you're feeling the support underneath of your feet, bring your attention to your legs, your calves. Acknowledge the tension that you may have brought in with you. Just breathing in, breathing out. Breathe in, breathe out. And moving up, feeling the support of your lower back pressed against the chair. And the support that the chair brings to you towards your body. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Moving our attention up to through our back, through our neck, the base of our neck, where all the tension is stored. Breathe it in, breathe it out. Breathe in, breathe out. While you're breathing in, breathe in positivity. Breathe in, breathe out. Taking a deep breath, inviting ourselves to be present in the moment. Breathe in, breathe out. While we exhale, we're releasing the tension. Breathe in, breathe out. Relieve the tension that we may have brought in with us from our travels. Breathe in, breathe out. From the traffic we had to circumvent to get here. Breathe in, breathe out. Past transgressions, those in your lives, breathe in, breathe out. We release all of that we bring in with us. Breathe in, breathe out. Bringing your attention back to your neck, to your head. Breathe in, breathe out. In our heads is where we store all of this tension, or where it originates from. Breathe in, breathe out. Releasing all of that. Breathe in, breathe out. We'll take a couple seconds of just of us breathing. Just acknowledge how you're feeling. Thoughts that pop into your head. Breathe in, breathe out. Let those thoughts be as clouds passing by. There's no right or wrong way to feel or to think. Breathe in, breathe out. We're in a safe place all together. Breathe in, breathe out. While you're breathing, I want you to repeat an affirmation in your heads. Breathe in, breathe out. I am capable. I am competent. I am confident. Breathe in, breathe out. I am capable. I am competent. I am confident. Breathe in, last seconds before we transition, I want for us to start thinking about a safe place, a place where you find comfort, Breathe in, breathe out. Place could be in the mountains, on the beach, or just wrapped up in your favorite blankets on your couch. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. All right, while we start, before we open up our eyes, in the position that you're in, start moving your toes around. Start moving your fingers around. Perhaps a little neck stretch. Release some of that tension. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And slowly open up your eyes. And welcome back to our 2026 UVA Team Retreat. Thank you guys for walking with me through that. Anyone want to go to sleep? Just want to forego the whole meeting and just take little naps like in daycare. All
Yeah, right.
All right.
With the chance to actually do that.
We're all back.
You know,
We all
maybe
feeling
like responsibility of them.
a little looser, relaxed. You know, there's always a lot that we bring in whenever we go on site, right? We have to traverse our normal tendencies to just log on to the computer in our pajamas, put some clothes on, right, and make our ways into the office. You know, along with that, we bring the challenges of the day, but we also bring the challenges of the past, you know, with us. And sometimes that could be a block for, you know, kind of a blinder, that's the word I'm looking for, a blinder for some of the other things that we have in front of us that we can appreciate, especially each other, right? So, I want to go ahead and get started if I can. When I was thinking of the theme for this retreat, you know, I really started thinking about all the changes that all of us have gone through, especially you all. I've been, believe it or not, 17 months here. And many of you have been, I was not searching for it as long as but thank you. But many of you have been here a lot longer, right? And you guys have been through a lot of different changes. It's almost like we've evolved over time, right? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take a moment for us to really look at where we've been at, you know, acknowledge where we've been at, the changes that we've gone through. And then over the next like 90 minutes or so, we'll be talking about where we are currently, and then also where we're going. So I won't call out something. I normally do not have an assistant. This is my companion. Some of you may know I've been a little sleep deprived lately, so I didn't want to miss any points, but I want to make sure that I was prepared. So hence my companion here. All right. So where we been? I got a lot of slack because I'm like, man, Jose, you don't know how to spell. I did that on purpose because I believe in being my authentic self, and I can't spell. So any of you are over dependent on like autocorrection, right? Like sometimes autocorrection has no idea what to do with me. They're like, I have no suggestion. I know some things, but spelling has always been a mess. Well, I thought it was important for us to start in the beginning. And I wanted to make this part a little bit interactive, if I could. So while we go through some of these different changes, if you guys, if were here for those changes, I ask that you raise your hand. And then perhaps share something that you remember from those phases as well. All right? So I don't want to just be me talking. So, start with Epic Phase 1. Anybody? All right, we got a handful of folks. Awesome. Anybody want to share something that they remember from that phase?
We've come a long way.
I was a clinician.
Wow. Okay.
Going through phase 1.
Where you had to use the system?
Where we had to design what we needed for the system, so going from paper charting
Wow.
to designing our navigators.
Neil and I went to the very first,
Super user training.
super user training together. We were
Okay.
both at KCRC together, and her and I went. And
Pre-battle building.
Wow.
Then I got to come over as a trainer in 2009.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else come with the group session or want to share something about their experience? I wasn't here, right? This is a long time ago. But
Was at the HIT service desk.
you were at the service desk. All right. So
I
we all.
remember when they hired Jessica.
Okay.
I think of that. You were like the only one for a while.
Where?
When you first got hired, you're the only one for that.
No. I was the first Epic help desk.
You were,
This was
okay,
the first
I
Epic help desk.
apologize.
In 2009, I was in the ED, and right before we took Epic, we were on a system called MedHost.
Okay.
I don't know if any of you have ever used it in your organizations, but it looked like a video game. Like it was a layout of the ED, but it somehow was a lab. Order, it would flash a little speakers, if they had an X-ray order, it would flash a set of crossbones, and it was very
Wow.
mentally exhausting to look at that screen. So I was very happy when we took Epic.
That reminds me of the first iteration of Meditech. So, all right.
Well, the first Epic help desk, they didn't train us, they just hired 3 of us, and they said, go to every single Epic training class we offer, randomly, just, and then, there's no order, rhyme or reason, just go to them whenever you can, and then here's 120 CDLs, watch them.
Wow.
And then they said, like, a couple months after, then they just said, okay, take calls. Right?
Okay. So it's kind of like what we do now. Right, we went to our clinicians, watch 120 CBLs and, have at it, right?
That's exactly the advice we gave me when I joined Epic Health Desk. She said, go to every class that you can and watch every CBL you can. So she passed it the knowledge.
But I did.
And it was very
but
helpful.
I did train, I trained, I think Travis was the first one I
Travis.
trained, and I said, watch them like, ambulatory nurse, and then understand what, and then don't go to ambulatory nurse class, then a beacon class, and then, because it jumbled them all together, and so I was like, you have to watch the CBLs, like, and you'll understand ambulatory nurse, and then go to the class, and then understand inpatient, because you have to help every role, right? And so the way that they told us, just watch everything, you're like, you remote into people's screens, and you're like, why don't they have this button? Because you didn't learn the role, but see, you figured it out though, eventually.
Yeah, indeed. My first exposure to Epic, I was a clinic manager as well, and we had about 46 hours of training that we had to go through before we can be given access or anything. And half of it I didn't have access to anyways because it wasn't my role, but I needed to know it. But there's a lot to that, right? Like immersing yourself into something. Because look at the amazing trainers that you all have become over time. So kudos to you all for your efforts during phase 1, right? This is our foundation for where we are today. All right. So many of us have seen this as well, right? Who's seen this in person, right? This is it was a proud moment going to UVA and going to Epic and seeing the UVA on the Walk of Fame. A little upset that people get to walk on top of us all the time, but it was nice to see, thanks for a good photo op for sure. But each year we send people from to Epic for XGM to learn from other experts throughout the world, right? And we bring those things back, and we have remnants of lessons learned from previous years that we've implemented into our practices now. So with all that being said, and I think that's great, and we'll continue to do that, but I can't wait for the day that we go to Epic to show how our expertise and what we could do, because we're doing some pretty innovative and creative things as well.
Didn't I present with you one time then? Or was that Laura Lewis?
Oh, no, you and Laura, yeah.
Yeah, Laura Lewis, and she's an analyst now, but we
Okay.
were trainers, and we did a session at one of the MGM things.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was. I think it was
Next year,
about
right? Not the MGM.
physician training and.
I didn't go to yeah, but it was.
Yeah, we were content and you and Laura.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
That was
great.
fun. It was fans. Oh, really?
Well, we're gonna do it, I'm hard set on us doing that again, right? There's a lot of time that's passed since 2009. And we're not the same people, we're not the same training team, definitely, but we're definitely not even the same organization. You know, I can imagine the leaps and bounds that we've been able to do over the last almost 10 years, or more than 10 years, 20 years. All right, Epic Phase 2. Who was here for that? A lot of us. Anyone want to share something that they remember? Any memorable moments from Phase 2?
Traumatizing.
Traumatizing. Okay. That's real.
Chaos and blue t-shirts.
From a help desk
Yeah.
perspective.
Chaos and blue
Like
t-shirts.
sky blue t-shirts.
Yes,
Yeah.
All right.
We have free coffee though.
Wow, we didn't get free coffee.
So I hear chaos, free coffee, and
Blue
blue
t-shirts.
t-shirts. Is what summarizes Phase 2.
On A2K3 in the trash.
Yes.
Say it again?
A2K3 in the trash, that was our registration
We got
system.
Yeah.
radio.
Okay.
It was like an old DOS-based
Yeah.
system.
I remember my first Epic class and, cause I was on the revenue cycle help desk at the time. And I remember this is so intuitive and I love it, cause I still could not, to this day could not figure out A2K3.
I was good at A2K3, but,
Except the hospital code. The
Yeah.
hospital code was the only thing I could do.
Wow.
I was actually nervous about it because A2K3 literally took you from screen to screen. So it was like, fill in this field, then go to the next screen, and then go to the next screen. And with Epic registration, you're kind of looking at everything and you had to like
Yeah.
figure
It was
out. So
overwhelming.
we were a little bit worried about missing things.
Oh, see, I liked it cause it told you.
Right.
Like, hey, you're
It was-
missing this on the side there.
Right, yeah.
It's like, yes.
Where I came from, we had 3 different systems before we transitioned to Epic, which was fun, right? Because sometimes they didn't talk to each other. You know, we had the registration piece, and then we had the charting piece, and we had GE Centricity, which I actually think is a nice product, but it didn't have the scheduling piece, or we didn't purchase the scheduling piece. So we had IDX. If you guys are familiar with that, very annotative. It is, to your point,
We had that
next screen,
for
it
insurance
was-
certification,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for earlier insurance certification.
So we used it for registration and scheduling as well, and it was very interesting. But we've all gone through a lot, right? And there's those 2 phases. So when we implemented circa 2017, at least that's from when surveying people get around that time frame, that Epic Phase 2 went into place. Epic Phase 1 was our foundational, the time where we sat and made an agreement with Epic that we were gonna use them as our choice for electronic medical record systems, correct? Basic foundational applications. 2017, we got all the bells and whistles that they had at the time, right? And so it put us close to about like almost 30, or about 25 applications, which is a lot, right? Just to add in one phase. So I hope it was a long phase. So I also say, the camp that I came from, we had 14 hospitals. And even though we had 14 hospitals, we didn't have as many applications that you guys had. So this makes UVA pretty unique, something that you guys should be proud of for sure. Some of the things that you have already put into place, they're actually putting into place now. So such as like Beaker, I think they just went live on Beaker. All right. Dun, dun, dun. The revenue cycle training and training services. Now, who else is there for that? it should be almost everybody, right? I think there's probably Tanya, I know Toma and Kim, may have been the last, folks to join the team. But most of us were here for part of this. Anyone want to share something from that time?
I got told 3 days before I was moving teams.
You got it, what again, I'm sorry?
I got told 3 days before I was moving teams.
That's what I remember. Yeah, cause we scooped you up for revenue cycle training under
Yeah.
revenue cycle training.
That'll
We
explain.
were the, like, redheaded stepchild, if I may use the term. Over, doing the training, but not part of HIT. It was exciting when we heard the news that y'all were opening the floodgates and letting us join you.
It was bittersweet, we lost Ruth in court. Yes. As trainers.
I was gonna say, they're still here.
As trainers,
So-
as clinical trainers.
That's technically fair.
That was hard, especially without Ruth coming into the classroom. How are you teaching that?
Well,
Be louder.
we figured it out, right? So, again, a lot of changes took place 2017 and over, and the years after that, right? So we had revenue cycle training team assimilate to HIT, and then out of the dust, the formulated the training services team, right? From what I understand, the way it was explained, it was a grab from the help desk, a grab from the clinical team, a grab from revenue cycle, and then we throw it all together and voila, training services, something like that. Is that pretty much summed up?
Under the credit of every team.
Yes.
And then they put them together.
But much needed.
Yes. I think we all said about time, because it really did help.
Okay. Well, I'm thankful for you all being here as well. It's a value added in my opinion as well. So 2023 is all when that took place, right? And around that time, and to somebody help me, but we also took on 3 community health hospitals as well, right? Just to add the layers of complexity. So we have not just one team, we threw 3 teams together. And then on top of that, we acquired 3 community health hospitals, right? That's a big jump, a lot of change all at once. And again, part of the reason why I wanted us to really think of, to go down this memory lane and acknowledge what we've been through and how we've evolved through the years. Anyone want to talk about the community health implementation? I know I've heard some stories from some of you.
Well, Carrie just mentioned it too, and I was just thinking, one big thing that affected us was having Oracle. So having 2 LMS systems to manage, the community health and the UVA employees, for training is a little.
Okay.
I think
So
they
we're
wanted us to,
stacking
we were
on-
having so much fun in Workday, they wanted us to do it again, so.
Yeah.
In a completely different system.
So stacking on the layers of complexity, right? So like, let's think about it. So we have 3 teams that we just formulated. I'm gonna rehash all of this over and over again. 3 teams that we just formulated, 3 hospitals that we just acquired, and on top of that, learn a new system that is not the best, in my opinion.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Court.
So some folks might remember, before they went on the Oracle there, we actually used net learning again temporarily.
Learning.
Yeah, simpler net learning. So we actually had a transition system.
Okay.
And also Oracle wasn't ready in time. So we wound up easily posting everything using previews onto the Epic Learning Library so the folks could see content. So we wound up loading everything into NetLearning, onto the ELL, and then into Oracle before we finally got everything situated.
And we're still not like
But
We're
yeah.
trying, but.
But my favorite memory from then was there was 3 months here for the go live.
3
I think I went through the entire stop in that week.
All right. My equivalent of free coffee, you know, you walk, get trapped in a white van, free coffee.
I was gonna add to just some of the changes that we went through was during that time, and Tom helped out with the go live for, the community health hospitals, and then we also registering as well.
I know Neil told me a lot about that,
It's
stage.
the only positive that came out of it.
Yeah.
Was this lady.
I think that the Prince William Haymarket Go Live was my first experience of the term dumpster fire. However, we quickly rebounded and we learned from that Go Live, and the Culpeper Go Live just 6 months later was a 180 turnaround. Like, it was so good. So I think that was a really good experience for me to see as a newer staff member on the team.
Yeah.
To see how we can learn from what we have experienced, adjust and change and make things better. So that was really cool.
Anyone else? Thank you, Neil.
When we acquired, Piedmont, that was my first big project on the team. I got to work closely with Neil and Molly, and it was just a wonderful learning experience.
That's a good perspective, good perspective. You know, there's, you start to see a theme, right, with, some of these stages of evolution, right, where it is rough at first, or is it a dumpster fire, as Neil, mentioned, right? But what do, right, when we get faced with, adversity, we get faced with challenges, complexities, such as multiple, LMS systems and, what is it, net learning, the kind of like intermediary, but temporary, system as well, like, again, added complexities. 3 teams that formulated, 3 community hospitals that were assimilated or acquired, and all the complexities of the systems. But what ends up happening? You just mentioned, we got Irene, we got Joanne, right? We got other folks that joined the team from a consultant standpoints, right? We turned the dumpster fire, we put it out, right? And then it was better the next time around, right? So we have a lot of those types of ebbs and flows in our evolution. And it's important for us to acknowledge where we come from, how we've traversed those challenges, because that's life. That's what it's always gonna be like that, right? So I don't know if you guys remembered, last year on my first all hands meeting, I had a crystal ball. It was my last slide of the slide deck. You guys probably don't remember, this is January 2025. I'm surprised that I remember this at this point. But I put a crystal ball up and I predicted what the next year was gonna look like. And I said, it's gonna be a lot of tears, it's gonna be a lot of laughter, it's gonna be a lot of celebrations, a lot of good things, a lot of bad things, a lot of challenges, a lot of successes. And that could be the prediction of every year, because we're gonna get faced with new challenges, new complexities, and we're gonna overcome them and we'll make them better, because that's the type of people that we are, right? We're resilient, we're intelligent, and we're capable, we're competent, and we're confident. So we're able to surmount those challenges when we're faced with them. But I wanted to take us through these stages, because I think it's important for setting the stage of where we're going. All right. Then Kate got a bright idea of hiring a new director. She found this Puerto Rican guy in Maryland. How to do it?
Led the way and was very innovative.
It was, but we had equal amount of challenges. And even though, it may have not, each project, each cycle, each upgrade, each acquisition, each implementation had its levels of complexity, and everybody said the same thing, like, holy shit, what is going on, right? This is a bull, right? But then what ends up happening, we pull our collective resources, we pull our collective intelligence, and we make those processes better. So just because it starts off one way doesn't mean it has to end up that way, right? So I started January 2025. I promise this is not a presentation about me. But along with that, we came with some ideas, right? So we started some new programs, some new processes, and man, we did a lot in the last year and a half. Again, I can't believe it's been 17 months. So in this time, in the last year or 17 months, we've accomplished a lot. We standardized some policies across training teams. We created a training handbook, right? We had, again, 3 teams that we had. And those 3 teams all had different processes. And so I was like, wow, I get to oversee 3 totally different processes. This is awesome. We standardized a lot of our processes. Our branding, we went through a whole branding efforts as well. Some of you didn't like the green. I did it at first. It grew on me, right? We updated our templates, PowerPoints, CBLs, Word documents, etc. So we had some type of uniformity in our processes, so that our learners all had a similar experience. And that continues to happen through like the RBI team and through all of you, really. This is contributions, not just from a selected few, but from all of you. So thank you all for all of that. Not only that, we infused some project management standards, right? I think I drove Megan crazy and probably scared her a little bit when I said, well, I'm gonna just have you come report to me for now on. So I'm sure she loved that.
I was already crazy.
Touche. We started quarterly professional development sessions. We're having separate retreats, right? Every year we had like separate things that we were doing, and we were functioning, as 3 teams, right? We had the what is the saying that we had, right? 3 teams, 1 voice, right? But I said jokingly, there must have been some echoes, because it sounded like more than 1 voice. So we've worked to address that as well. So we did centralize the coordinator positions as well. We formalized SHIFT, the CBL program, right? I'm gonna test you guys on the definition of SHIFT in a moment. So I'm gonna start looking up with SHIFT. But we also formalized the USUP, the Unified Super User Program as well. So this is from last year. The one thing I just want to drive home is that none of these things that we did over the last 17 months was anything that I did. I just want to emphasize this. If you guys walk with me for a second, everything that we have done, all I did was take what you have already created and did at some point in time and just add some structure to it. And then it started to grow and manifest. So like the super user program, you guys had super user programs, right? It just, maybe it was in different levels of, what's the word I want to look for? Consciousness. Like some groups were more asleep and others were more active, right? But there were different levels of our success with the super user programs. It is now looked at as a system-wide enterprise solution for communication, right? So this is something that you all did. The SHIFT program, you guys were pumping CBOs out before I got here. Jim and team has been doing this. Nicole joined, I think, the same month I did.
2 weeks after you.
2 weeks after me. And she's been rolling since, right? We had Lisa and Tom join as well, those e-learning efforts. And you guys did some amazing work, and Jim's gonna talk about that in a little bit. But all of these things are things that you all already had done. So I just wanna point that out. No kudos to me, all kudos to you. So I'm gonna ask you guys to give yourself a little round of applause for all your. All right. So enough about me. Well, I'm gonna take a break, and I'm gonna bring up somebody that's smarter than me. And I'm gonna bring up Dr. Shipley, who's gonna talk to us about the SHIFT team. Yep.
I can't follow that introduction.
All right, really quickly. We're gonna talk about a lot of things today, right? There's 3 phases that we shared last year. It's still the strategy. It's still in flight, and it's and so we're bringing back instructional digitization to talk about. So because we like tongue twisters. So with that being said,
Does anybody know the acronym for SHIFT?
Come on, Jim.
I got a reward for anyone who could say it off the top of their head. It's corny, but I got something.
Well, thanks to ChatGPT, the synchronous, hybrid, independent, flexible training. We spent a long time coming up with ideas, we asked ChatGPT, which will take all our jobs. So what's in scope is only classes we've converted from ILT currently to CBL format only. Out of scope for this is gonna be anything that's existing CBLs that we condense or we convert from Captivate to Storyline, which is the new standard that Epic is also going to. And requests for new content. So something like secure chat or EcoSense, kind of net new content, that's also out of scope. So we've been doing all three of those strands over the last year. This is a big chunk of what we do though, so we've converted the following classes that were delivered as ILT to CBL only. You can see Pat did last year was the Patient Access Training Improvement Project. Acronyms. So all the CAD classes there, that was all part of the PADIT project. Then you can see that we did GC Grand Central Transfer Center, a whole lot of billing courses, because Howard and Melissa knocked out of the park using the CBL development template. And Jill also had and then some prelude courses and Red Verse, so. Yeah, next slide. So one thing we wanted to share is kind of our process, so I'll give you a few stats. We currently manage about 700 items in Workday. That's CBLs, that's UVAs, that's anything visual content. At any one time, we could be on the hook for managing 700 items on Workday, which is always kind of like this weight pressing down to come like that. When we convert a class from ILT to CBL, it compresses about to 1/2. So a 4-hour class is about 2 hours of screen time in CBL. And then we try to break that up into 10 to 15 minute increments, because beyond that, you're really taxing somebody's attention span and cognitive load. So we try to convert that 2-hour class to 10 to 15 minute CBLs, so you're looking at 10 to 12 different CBLs. So we're always adding that number of 700 on Workday. So there's constant in between new stuff, managing what we have, and trying to keep it manageable. So we try to, one more thing. It takes about 4 hours of development time for every 1 minute of screen time. So a 10-minute CBL is about 40 hours of development time for someone with experience doing it. When you add in things like interactivity, or 10 people need to review it, like you have 10 SMEs who need to go through it and do it. If it has a lot of branching between ambulatory and inpatient, that adds more time on top of that. So under ideal conditions, it's about 4 hours. And that's also assuming the build is complete. If you keep trying to build, then that's also going to throw things in there. So we like to provide an early storyboard to this is a verification of, is the content accurate? When you guys send us a request, we assume like, okay, this is the blueprint, the content is accurate, it's been vetted. So we'll take screenshots, we add notes and scripting in the notes section. These are pretty fast to develop. In fact, you could even do these yourself in PowerPoint. You can take screenshots, you can write the script you want in the notes section, and then we can import that into the program we use to create CBLs, and it shortcuts it significantly. And we can also verify that you get what you want if you do the screenshots and scripting. I know that like Melissa and Howard have used this quite a bit for the building courses. The other thing we do is we write prototypes. So prototypes are kind of mostly to fully functional versions of the course. You can go through it, you can click through it, you can hear the audio. If these are workflow based, you can go through and you can click parts of the screen to get to the next area. Generally, we can only do these because these use a program called Storyline that only we have access to at the time. But these are more in time because it's developed. And we also like to make sure that before we get to the prototype phase, the content is vetted and correct. Because once we get to the prototype phase, having to redo things at this phase is much more time intensive. So we like to make sure things are correct before we put it on celluloid. Any questions so far about the process? All right, you may hear these words interchangeably, otherwise, this is how we define them. So storyboard is generally a PowerPoint or Word, prototype is a fully functional version of course, and Rise for Storyline 360. This is not a perfect metaphor, but it's one I like to think of to describe how we all work together. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an architect, but I hate math, which is an occupational hazard. I do get to work in a design field, which is fun, but I don't get to design buildings. But I like to think of you guys as the architects. The architect has the vision for the building, it has the purpose for the building. And you know, from architecture, the phrase form follows function. The function is more important and determines what form it takes. We think in the same way. The learning goal is what's important, the form will follow the learning goal. So you guys, as the trainer and instructional designers, your role is to purpose, lay out the flow of the course. The engineers and builders, we tell you what's possible, because architects will get way up here. You know, we want to build things out of cotton candy. How much does that cost? All right, so the engineer, that's more of your SMEs, your analysts, your operational leaders. They tell you what's kind of accurate structural integrity, and then we're the builders, so we execute. There's a lot of great blueprints that never get made anything because no builder will take it on. So our job is to help you execute your vision. Together we work on things like selecting and sourcing materials, the visual look of the building. So a lot of builders, you have specialists that come in, they'll do the detail work and that kind of thing. The SMEs and the developers, we do things like identify constraints. Whatever you want to do, there's a chance it's not going to work there in Oracle, which will hopefully not be a problem in the next couple of years. We can get rid of it, but we do have to work around those types of constraints. And then if something comes up in the process of designing the building that needs troubleshooting, we can help you develop solutions for it. Together, all of us, we follow our own code of professional ethics. Remember, we're all here to serve learners and do right by learners and advocate for them. And then we meet code requirements. So whatever we do, we want to make sure it's accurate. In this really imperfect analogy, I like to think of patients as pedestrians on the street walking by who hope your building doesn't fall on top of their heads. But I think that's all I have. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with the epic refuel and moving back to foundations, how much weight is that gonna lift off the ELD team? Like, if we're moving back towards foundation, are we gonna start pulling more learning from relearning and using
Hopefully.
foundational CBLs, or are you guys gonna still build them specific to UVA?
No, hopefully we can reuse a lot of the new learning that's kind of like foundational stuff, but and focus our efforts on things that are really UVA specific. For example, we have 11 to 12 versions of a course called Getting Started. We could do one version of Getting Started with 12 branches. That was harder to do in Captivate. It is easier to do in Storyline, and that's now 11 fewer things we have to manage your workday. If we combine all those types of courses, like now combine them into one. So there's also a whole lot of in-basket. There's a whole lot of smart tools courses. We can make all those one course with branches, and it's easy to manage.
How do we expect someone brand new to a health system to know which branch to take? We discovered lots of difficulty without Scare Chat on 3 branches.
Yeah, it's a great question.
They might not know, right?
Yeah.
Thinking out loud, sorry.
I think it's, in order for us to accurately answer that, it requires a conversation between the engineers and the architects as well as the builders, right? So, we could build it, according to the blueprint that we were given, but sometimes we need to go back and say, hey, like, to your point, like, this is gonna cost a lot, right? So we need to have a conversation with them just to ensure that what it is that we're creating is, not gonna fall on their heads, as the pedestrians walk by. It's, the one thing about Secure Chat, number one, the Secure Chat was an interesting event, right? This is one way to put it. But I would say it's probably one of our most viewed CBLs that we have. In a matter of about 3 weeks, over 10,000 people watched that. So we had over 10,000 completion rates for one CBL, which I think is a milestone for us, just as far as how quickly it was put together, how quickly it was deployed and assigned, right? Not to mention the whole assignment process that Molly's still like recovering from. It was a very cumbersome process for sure. But I think with everything that we do, there's always gonna be opportunities for improvement and opportunities to collaborate, you know, with our learners essentially, because what we wanna create has to be what meets the need, right? That's part of our adult learning principles, is that whatever we're teaching is relevant and it's something that can be applied immediately, right? It's solving a problem, and again, it requires a conversation, and sometimes we're not the best at having those conversations. And I say we, not necessarily us here. We collectively UVA, I would say. Neil.
Yeah, if I could just make a comment, I just wanna highlight something you said, because I think I learned it through working through this process. But he said at the beginning, when you engage an e-learning developer, it is assumed that your material is correct, and it is vetted, and it is ready to go. And I think that is something that we don't think about, but turning a piece of material, a paper material, into an e-learning is the fastest way to poke holes in your workflows, in your things that we just skip over when we're actually training it because we know and we just don't care about the mistake or that type of thing. It is like a glaring red stop sign when you try to make it into an e-learning. So definitely keep that in mind before you engage those e-learning developers.
That's a great one too. I do a lot from like muscle memory, and just I've done it so many times that I know my way through it. But if I were to narrate to somebody else, like I have to go through and verify, like, oh yeah, I need to open this menu and click this thing. There's a lot. You all forget how you became experts. So
yeah,
that's the
knowledge curse.
What's that?
They call it the knowledge curse.
That's right. So it's hard one. It's not something you can hack in 2 weeks. So yeah.
When we put in a ticket for a consultation, just kind of speaking to this point about like content, what is ideal for us to already have ready for that consultation when we initiate it?
Yeah, so I think it depends on like, are you converting an existing class where the content is already pretty well scoped out, or is this a new class that you want to create from scratch? Those tend to be a little more iterative, like kind of more problem solving and collaborative, because the content is not scoped out yet. We don't really know what's required. An example would be like nurse triage is coming up next week, where it's brand new stuff. You know, it may change, you know, as the build evolves. The things you're converting from ILT, you probably already have exercise books, you have practice scenarios on the ELL, you know, those kind of things that you work through. If you have a pretty well maintained exercise book, and you go through it and like, could I follow your instructions and just recreate things from scratch? Or is they'll say, are you going through and finding gaps? Like, this hasn't been looked at in a couple of years, or if you upgrade and change things, and I just kind of gloss through it in class, because I do a lot of it too. Like, every year when I was teaching, I would say, oh, I need to change it for next year.
Jim, can I have one other thing to the process of this to consider? We just did this with the Beacon clinical research coordinator shift, and I thought it was all set. You know, I talked about it with our analyst, had an internal, you know, peer review, whatever, gone through that whole process. We thought we were ready to go, and then, you know, the analyst came back with, oh, you know what, really, I want to have so-and-so look at this. And that person, of course, had changed. So she was an actual Beacon clinical research coordinator, which is great. I mean, you want to get it right, but that stopped the whole process dead. Like Nicole had already developed the whole course, and you were looking at it again. So I think the thing to say here is that when you're reaching out to those folks, to the SMEs, to get this, make sure we say, you know, make sure that everybody who really should be included in this is included, because it will really hold up the process.
But we did just get it launched, so I'm excited
Yes.
about that.
So I'll piggyback on that just a little bit. Whenever you have a TS that decides that they're gonna offer a new build a week before go live, post go live optimization is the word you need to pull out of your toolbox very quickly.
Yeah, that's a great point, like, and we can also come up with short-term and long-term solutions, so if it's really urgent go live, we can do a tip sheet or practice scenarios and kind of point them to PRA while we build a more substantial and kind of stable long-term CBL, so, yeah.
I just want to add to what Jim was talking about with the storyboards, how some trainers are creating their own storyboards, sometimes we do it. You trainers are interested in doing that, let us know, we can work with you on what we need. Lisa's created a great document, give her some credit, she did an amazing job. It was an Insight a couple months ago, I think maybe it was in May, she posted a link to that, but if you wanna consult with us, she's given some demos that have been fantastic, just to show you exactly the screenshots you need. If you give us usable screenshots, we can pretty much plug and play with the script, and it really does speed up development, and it gives you a little bit more control. So it's really up to the trainer on how comfortable you are with that, but we are a resource to help you find that, and Lisa's document's fantastic, so, yeah, I mean, reach out to her if you don't have it, I'm sure she'd be happy to send it to you, and we're happy to help you guys through all that process.
Sure, I meant to call her out, she did do
It is
She did a much better job than I did explaining what the screenshots, so.
Lisa did meet with me to do that, like she walked me through, and it was fantastic. It was so informative and very easy.
And I learned from it, and I had already been doing screenshots, so she taught me some new tricks.
Make it light on your feet.
Ruth, you had a question or comment?
You just answered it.
Okay.
I do have something I would like to say though.
What?
Sure.
Ruth has something to say, you guys.
When you all are doing this shift, William and I don't know about the other two up there, but we'd like to know a little bit more about this and when it's coming. I had no idea Beacon Research was going for this. And I like to know beforehand, I don't wanna know August 2nd that the class that week wasn't supposed to be scheduled.
Right.
And I'm not picking, I'm just giving you as an example.
We're following that.
Boss.
Yeah.
It's coming out. They start scheduling like a week and a half early, so. Yeah.
But I am meeting with court on Friday, you guys wanted to know, want them to join it, but we'll talk about the crosswalk and the CBL stuff, so.
That's a really good point, because I've updated the crosswalk too, and what does TS need?
If you use me with your project, then that stuff is built in, like I have a task item for that, but if you're not using me, then,
We don't know anything.
then they don't.
Well, and it also seems like CS is not, I'm not saying you guys aren't communicating, but if I'm working, like if there's a ticket, I'm working with court on something for the LMS and the crosswalk, do I also have to inform the new hire specialist that court made these changes, or is court and Carrie supposed to tell you guys when the changes are made?
Corner, you have crosswalk change, you have to.
We're working this right now.
You know, like Neil said, like it pokes holes in the process.
Yeah, indeed. And that's all right. That's all right for us to discover a step that may be missing, as long as it doesn't keep missing, right? So, Ruth, you have a great point. To Chris's point, Ruth, we'll make sure we follow the SOP and, make sure that advanced communication takes place. Also, Megan has a shameless plug to include her in, these projects, and you don't have to worry about that, right? Just throwing it out there.
But Megan's great at leading the way, I really appreciate her effort.
Awesome.
Jose, can I, so the goal point too, like, so I teach instructional design, I'm really interested in working with people to learn more about design. If you wanna be more involved, like, we are happy to work with you and collaborate, and I find it. And we don't have office hours, and if you're not reading the insights, you're missing gold, so.
Very true.
Yeah.
So something that comes up, I'm trying to like formulate my question, is when we're creating this material, because I have, worked with Lisa and, to help do the.
Killed it for secure chat.
Thank you. We just killed secure chat. But yeah, I find it so interesting, the different ways that we can create the CBLs, like, sometimes it's interactive, sometimes it's a video, sometimes, and I think what would be helpful, is kind of having like the basics of like, these are your options.
Like a menu.
when you're creating, yeah, like a menu, like, you know, do you want something where you can drag, cause you showed me something one time where you could like drag and move like bubbles or something, I was like, I didn't even know, like, or flip the cards, you know, things like that. Like, you know, I know that we won't necessarily do the work, but I think it would be helpful to kind of know, like, oh, maybe my content would make sense in this format so that I can, you know, share it back with you guys when you're building it. I think that would be helpful.
So maybe we could do a little CBL with different options, so they can just watch it on demand.
Yeah, or we could talk it through in the consultation process.
That's what I would recommend, is like, in the consultation process, you tell you what your options are. Like,
Took the words out of my
If
mouth.
there's a funded play thing for them to watch before
Yeah.
and get their brains
Something we could
going
present.
before they meet
Yeah.
with us, then they have an idea.
Well, I think that's a good, good suggestions. Well, thank you, Jim, I appreciate it. One thing I wanna say, yeah, please. So I wanna say, I'm gonna bring us all back. We're all in this together right now, we're in the retreat. So, along with all the great work that's been happening through the SHIFT project, again, it is not SHIFT alone because they need all of you, right? So this is a group effort. So last year, we had a goal, and I just want to clarify this. We had a goal, or I expressed the goal last year during this very session, that we wanted to convert 50 to 75% of our training that is tied to Epic System Access. And then I had sent out a change communication a few, like 6 months later, and I said something like 90 to like 100%. And then like 7 of you jumped at me like, what do you mean? You said 70%, I was 100, like, what do you want from us? So,
That's a good thing, right?
say again?
We're reading your emails, that's a really good thing.
You know what? When you guys respond to my emails, I jokes aside, I get happy. Like, I'm like, man, and I think I say it sometimes, like, thank you for reading my email, you know, like, because I love it when I send something out, it has all the information, then someone asks me a question, I'm like, man, like, it has a beautifully written email, it has it all there, or wrong information, so, but. So I do want to clarify that, and we'll talk about this in just a second, but I'll say this blatantly just to make sure that you guys can have me on record. I'm recording myself here. The aim is indeed 100% of our Epic training that is tied to system access. I'm gonna go into that in a little bit, but that doesn't mean that we have a ton of training that's not tied to access. A ton of training that we do, right? So instructor-led training, I'll just say it here, is never gonna go away. There's never gonna be a world that we exist in, at least here at UVA, that there is no instructor-led training. There always has to be a human in the loop. I watched a demonstration the other day with Articulate, and they have a new feature in AI where you could build a whole slide deck by just talking to it. And say, yeah, I want a slide deck, I'll put this here, and you give it the whole commands, and it produces whatever. And you can do it in a matter of like minutes, like quickly. But quick doesn't mean quality, right? I know Jim said this a million times, but there's a three-pronged approach. So there's cost, there is quality, and then there's speed, right? So one suffers when you focus on the other two. You can't have all three. You can't have something really quick and top quality that doesn't cost, right? So if you want to focus on one, the other two kind of are in jeopardy. So just wanted to point that out. There would never be a case where there is not a need for us. Number one, AI can't do what we do. People don't want to listen to AI tell them what to do. Be truthful. Like even the AI classes that I've attended, I recently got a certification in AI and essentials in L&D, or learning and development, and it was a mutual thing amongst everybody that participated in there. AI would not replace us. Imagine, is AI gonna round and show up to a nurse that is in need, provide her the information that they need? There's always gonna be a room for us. So I'm gonna say that was off script, it's not what I had planned to say, but I just wanna say that while I have your attention. All right, but before we go into TSAM, we have not met that mark of the 50 to 70% conversion from last year. What we have done is we reached a little shy of 30%, which I still think is amazing. because all of the things that Jim just mentioned, it's not just converting the classes. We had to go back, the Less is More project, we had to look at every single dang digital piece of real estate that we had and make sure that it was updated, archived, we did something, we marked it for whatever next stage of it, right? We had to update a numerous amount of videos as well. The Nightingale project, a lot of those videos were updated. I understand the Smart Start videos were updated as well. So it wasn't just converting instructor-led to CBLs, but we also, we went back and cleaned up and updated countless amount, we did count it, but I don't have the numbers. So the countless amounts of CBLs that we have already created, not to even mention the net new ones that we created for all these projects, and oftentimes in a tight turnaround. So with that alone, I want to say you guys deserve a round of applause for all of that. Say again?
There have been quite a few projects.
Yeah, just a couple. We've had just a couple projects, right? So, with that being said, we talked about shift. We're gonna transition to the stage 2 with TSAM. But Jim told you what shift meant. Could someone tell me what the definition of shift is?
Synchronous hybrid.
Managers not allowed. Managers not allowed.
Flexible training.
All right, what, somebody.
I had almost all of them.
Yes.
Anybody want to take a gander?
Yeah.
Geneva.
Synchronous, hybrid, individualized, is it individual? No.
And then
Independent.
and then flexible training.
Close.
Flexible training.
I always forget the I.
All right.
Independent.
Yes. There you go.
There you go.
All right.
Yay.
Oh.
What is it, a candy?
It's a flower, it's a little pin.
All right. Now, there's another opportunity. Who can tell me what TSAM stands for? Not Neil. Can't say. Anyone else?
Acquisition model, tiered strategic acquisition model.
Close. Anyone else want to take a try? Yes.
I like Jill's
Anybody?
answer.
What was Jill's answer?
Tomato, salsa, avocado,
And that's what we're having for lunch today. All right. So, anyone else? Okay, I got one more of these 3D printed little lapel pins, flowers. Sorry. Anyone else?
Just that match.
What am I saying? Tiered skills acquisition model?
My brother-in-law does 3D printing, and he's just like gone berserk. And he's every time I see him, he's like, "Here." And it's like, what am I gonna do with this? I got an alien that sits on a chair. But anyway, all right. So tier skilled acquisition model. If you guys remember, this was part 2 or phase 2 of our redefinition or modernization of our training team. And the tier skilled acquisition model is a nursing platform or nursing instructional design process for their clinical competencies. And essentially, just to make it easier to break it down, it is doing the opposite of what we have been doing all these many years of just dumping a whole bunch of information on people and expecting them to retain it all. What they do, the process of TSAM is a tiered skilled acquisition model where they introduce different skill sets. You get training at a certain point, and then you get some additional training a little later, some additional training a little later. So it helps with our overall retention rate. If you guys are familiar with the Pomodoro technique, where a Pomodoro technique is something I use to remember things, because my memory is failing me these days. But essentially, a part of the Pomodoro technique, and I'm planning to say this anyways, but I'm gonna say it. The idea is you create more beginnings and more stops. Our memory always, we seem to remember things at the beginning of a thing and at the end, like how things started, how things ended. The middle is subject to interpretation at times, right? So you create these smaller breaks. I do this in my day. I may go hard in doing something for like 45 minutes, and then I take a break for like 5. Then I come back and things like that as well. So there's different applications of it, but essentially the tiers of the TSAM allows for more starts and more beginnings, so there's more retention throughout the process. So it's like the way our brains work. It's pretty fascinating. But anyway, taking us into TSAM, thank you, Neil. I had a whole nother slide to present, and it was incorrect, and Neil quickly pointed it out. So the model itself, Neil did a fantastic job. I'm gonna give Neil a round of applause for this. We just started this, are we in the second cycle, or still the second one's about to start?
We are in the second cycle, the third one's about to start.
Okay, so we're still awaiting feedback from them, but I'm blown away. I will be fully transparent. I had an idea that I shared, and then they kindly said, "No, Jose, just calm down and let me take this on." And then what Neil produced was amazing, and I was like, "This is it. This is what we need to do." And then you guys just did amazing work. Of course, Neil worked with Jim and team, and there were others contributors. So everything that we do is a team sport. So kudos to all of you for making this happen. So essentially, the motto is day one, they have the ambulatory clinical support, RNs, PCTs, and any other roles within it? CMAs, LPNs. They get their basic learning modules, right? And that's us. We provide it to them. That's day 1 and 2. Day 3, they spend some time with their preceptors. NPDS is Nursing Professional Development Services, I think. And so these are nurse educators that work with them on their clinical competencies. They have a new system that's called Kahuna, so they're standardizing their onboarding processes, which is great. And we just got a little glimpse into that recently. Then they, on day 4, the Epic, they get their access, and then their insight, with their preceptors, and they're going about their day, just getting familiarized with what their workload is going to look like on a regular basis. They end up getting ongoing support from their preceptor and super user collaboration. And then there's an advanced Epic ambulatory clinical skills or personalization session that Neil offers as well. So on top of they're getting the exposure, they're actually getting to practice it. They're getting some more scaffolding with their preceptors and their super user folks that they're working with. And then on top of that, here comes the expert. Let me clean up everything and fill in those gaps. Anything that you may not know or have some troubles with, I'm gonna take some time and I'm gonna show you that. Now we're building workforce ready clinicians. And that's the whole idea behind TSAM. So again, kudos to Neil and team for all the hard work for putting this together. And I would acknowledge this as well. Neil was doing this in the midst of secure chat, in the midst of countless other projects, right? And that's something as heroic and as much as I want to, we will applaud that, is something that I want to address a little bit. Because we all can't be Neil. Yes, ma'am.
So, it says on day 1 and 2, they get their CDL drawing program, day 3 is NPDS, and then day 4 is Epic Access. So, are those roles not being approved for Epic Access until NPDS training is done?
No, they're being approved.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, I was supposed to.
They're being approved as soon as their learning program is done. Jose gives me a lot of credit, but the reason that this was such an easy first go round for the TSAM model is because we were approached by operations to ask for this. So it went hand in hand with Jose's ask, and so we already had that operational buy-in. We didn't have to fight for that. They asked for it, they were engaged from the very beginning. Also, they have that NPDS training. What we found was that they were going to NPDS training, and then I was teaching them the exact same thing the next day. So it really was a duplication of instruction and too much all at one time. So we really did reduce that front loading and focus on what do the end users need to know on day 1, and then we circle back with them, offering one-on-one sessions, offering a class, for advanced skills, that allows time for, let's get into production, and let's go ahead and configure your schedule together. So far, so good. We've had one advanced skills class, and we'll have another one next week that Chris is gonna take on. And then hopefully after 3 full cycles, we're gonna do some surveys of both the participants, the learners, and the preceptors and managers to kind of get feedback from both perspectives. And I look forward to sharing that with you guys.
Yes, I can't wait to see it.
How many came through out of 20? And I would just like to call out, but in addition, I had 2 one-on-ones.
You're not respecting your hand, Emily.
I just can't
So
see it.
8 out of 20, oh my, that's still a good number.
Emily?
Hey, so just about the week 3 component, it's assigned CDL content at advanced level?
Currently, we are in phase 2 of that project, so right now we have 2 CBLs. It's not assigned.
Automated?
What we did, which I am absolutely in love with, is we created a learning station page on the ELL that they can go to. They can access their CBLs at any point in time from there. It's a preview link. It's beautiful, and it has their schedule that they can refer to, their relevant tip sheets are linked there, and all of their CBLs. So I direct them to the learning station. They can watch their CBLs from there.
And do they come to you in like a class format that you have as a communication channel to convey this information that week 3?
I'm conveying it both on day 1
Yeah.
and on day 14.
Okay.
So as they're entering week 3, they're getting another email from me.
Email from you.
And I'm directing them to that learning station because the class link is in the learning station. I don't assign the class.
Right.
If they show up, I enroll them and give them credit.
Amazing. So I think I remember you saying it was optional.
It is optional. And that's honestly because I have it at week 3, but if they don't come at week 3 because they're not there yet in their onboarding, if they're still getting the basics and they're not ready for that advanced training, then they can come back in week 5, or they can come on week 7.
Amazing. I saw a talk at GM a few years ago where they were able to leverage their LMS to automate, like an intermediate and an advanced level of training after a certain time has elapsed, and I just keep hoping to hear that we've leveraged that functionality in the LMS. I think for access.
Not at this time.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I think that's all of our hopes
Right.
for the horizon, but I think it's important to help me understand, like, I think things that are possible in Workday are not possible in Oracle, and
Yeah.
vice versa, so
Right.
once we get onto one standard, then I think that is definitely something that Court is looking at, to improve all of our lives, is those automations.
Something interesting that I didn't share in my presentation the other day, but the organization I presented on, they don't call it the ELL, they call her Ella, the Epic Learning Library Assistant. And she's like, do you guys remember the little paperclip that floated around in Microsoft?
Yeah.
So they have a little question mark that floats around, it hovers on Epic, and you can click on it, and you can ask it a question, and it reads the role, your access, your template that you have, and it will either walk you through the steps on how to do the question you're asking, or it gives you specific tip sheets based on the access that you have to the system. And it opens straight, and I was like, I want that so much, how do I get that?
Well-
Can we see our learning at some point?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, the one thing I love about learning and development is that the options are really limitless, right? Like the methodologies are limitless. Like the instructional design practices, music design practices, like they're so vast, and they continue to grow every day. You know, I think I shared a dream that I had once with Jim. It was a little dream. Like I woke up and I was like, man, that's a great idea. I want to do that. But it was like, what if we had like a super CBL? I'm not saying that we're gonna do this, but I'm just throwing this out there. What if we had like a super CBL that and we gamify it, where the people take the class, they get some points that it gets tracked through the LMS, and at a certain amount of classes, then they get like, they level up to like super user, right, automatically, right? And so that you continue, and then when you do that, then it recommends additional training sessions, things that would be applicable to their roles, et cetera, right? And this is like a dream. I dream about you guys, which is, I don't know if it's a good thing or not. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. But, like my wife asked me, she's like, did you sleep last night? This is this morning. I was like, no. I was thinking about this presentation, and I dreamt that I was presenting it, and then I woke up, like, first thing is like, oh, I'm in class. I'm like, no, like, where am I? Anyways, enough of my delirium. So, thank you for the conversation. I think that the sky's the limits as far as what we can do, but first things first, right? We have to maximize what we have access to before we start introducing, the new shiny things. So I wanted to talk about the job profiles. Everyone said, ooh. And I want to explain a couple of things. So a couple weeks back, I sent out a video update, and then I sent via email, and about the job profile changes, about the levels and et cetera. And this has been like the vein of my existence for the last 9 months. I'm glad Kate came back at perfect time. So I just want to be thoughtful on how I'm saying this. So everyone loves HR. Not really, but so we last summer they went through career journeys, and they implemented this UVA wide. Made a lot of different changes. I remember attending the webinars, thinking I was like, yeah, we was pumping it up. Like, this is gonna be the next best thing to sliced bread. Attended the webinars, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on still. They weren't the best, I would say, with communicating the intentions behind it. Their intentions were to create a career path for all the jobs, roles within the organization, and make sure that people were in the right job families. So there's job families, there's job profiles, there's job descriptions, right? So the job profiles were, it was the biggest thing that changed. This is, again, I'm not talking about 2 weeks ago, the Jose initiated event. I'm talking about 9 months ago, the HR initiated event. And so when they rolled this out and we saw what the changes were, we had a lot of conversations about them internally on the leadership team. We looked at our job descriptions in Workday and was like, whoa, this is not what we do. I think Kate had a great one in her new role. It was like 2 sentences, which didn't really encapsulate anything that she did. Mine was very similar, same thing with the managers. If you guys look at your job descriptions in Workday, it's very generic, and that's on purpose. What they do is whenever there's an opening, we have a conversation, we meet with HR, we provide them with our job descriptions that we've created internally. And we have job descriptions for each one of the roles that we've worked on prior to the career journeys that we provided them to see if that can perhaps help them with this career journey implementation. They said, this is wonderful, great. Could you put it on a big spreadsheet and correlate all the different levels and everything? We did that. And it was this huge, beautiful Excel sheet that we submitted along with that. They took it, they said thank you. And then what they produced had little to no connection to what we provided them. So essentially, the job roles changed last year. So this structure that you all were accustomed to, the IT analyst, intermediate, senior, etc., all of that structure is gone. It's been gone since like last year. What we've been trying to do is because what it seemed like was everybody was moved into different levels. We all now are IT training professionals. a 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it seemed very arbitrary as far as where people landed. In some cases, it didn't make sense. So we've been having this conversation back and forth for the last like 9 months. Again, it wasn't just me. Kate had the privilege of joining in some of those conversations as well, and I'm sure she's trying to forget them. But we went through all of that. One of the biggest things that I wanted to do is really uncouple the jobs based on their functions. We had PTs and CTs in same levels, and it would be very challenging to transition from a CT to a PT, which should be like a promotional type of thing, because the levels didn't line up and our internal equities is all over the place. This is not anybody's fault, it's just the way it happened over the last whatever years, and it is where we are where we are with that. So our attempt was to fix or untangle the knot that HR put us in. We don't have any HR representatives or representation in this building. So we went back and forth with that. The first things first is that they were like, oh, the CTs and PTs are the same role. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. They can be, but they're not. We provided them justification. I belong to an organization that's called Healthcare Informatics Educational Network, that it really is a conglomerate of peer organizations just like us in similar roles. Some have Epic, some don't, but they all are learning and education and technical teaching camps, essentially. So we meet every month, we share different ideas, best practices, and things like that. So I was able to meet with many of them and get information from them. I did invite Molly at one point to meet with the director or like my counterpart at the University of Colorado Boulder, which if you guys haven't seen any of their presentations, these guys are amazing. So we wanted to steal a lot of things. So I think it was like a good hour that we met with them, and she was very helpful, and she was like, anything you want, we shared. And she shared so much with us, and we still have a great relationship. So we provided not only the information that we had from them, but other organizations as well. Even my previous camp at Maryland. And finally, a few months, they were like, okay, we understand, they're different roles. All right, great, now that you understand that, and we met with them again and try to really uncouple training services, considering that training services, it has slightly different roles or responsibilities than the rest of the other training teams. So our attempt was to level set and put people back into a structure that made sense. And I'll say that it made sense at the time. It made sense to us. We were dealing with this for, again, 9 months back and forth. So it felt like a very long time that we've been working on this, and it was. So as soon as we got to some type of resolution, and they finally agreed to move people where we saw fit, I wanted to find a job profile within UVA that would align with training services roles and responsibilities, which is why we had looked at the administrative operations profile. I was very stringent as far as my requirements, and I wanted to ensure that no matter what is being recommended, that it wouldn't affect any base pay. It wouldn't affect anybody, there wouldn't be any demotions, there wouldn't be any kind of issues in that sense, and I was very adamant about that. And you know what, they did that. They did that. But what we found out is that there were some other unintended consequences with that transition. So I want to say, first of all, I appreciate all of you who have reached out. I expect that if something were to take place, that you guys would reach out to your managers or to me directly, and many of you reached out to your managers, many of you reached out to me directly. We met, we talked about them initially, and it weighed heavy on me. So we went back to HR. I have a meeting with them tomorrow. We weren't able to align sooner, but our intention is to roll back those changes to where they were 2 weeks ago. So I'm gonna stop there for any kind of questions or commentary.
Thank you.
So what this means is, once I get the blessings, again, I wanna make sure that there's no other unintended consequences of moving you back. So I wanna make sure that that's all clear, and I can't promise that until I meet with them. But what I can promise is that, to move forward my intention. And I'll ensure that we get to something that's more conducive for us as a whole and not just some. Joanne?
Is there a description of what each level is, like a job description?
Yes. So, I'm glad you said that. You stealing my, so I already went through some lessons learned. The other lesson I wanna say is, change is hard, right? Any change, and in healthcare, we are faced with changes on a regular basis. I don't think that people have problems with change. I think people have problems with sudden change. And I think the way we rolled it out wasn't the best way to roll it out. And what we should have done is consulted with those who would be affected, especially the most, before we made this transition. So moving forward, that's what we were promised that we do. All right? Any questions before I'll move on to the next slide? Jess?
I just have a quick question. Is this something that you guys approached HR with? Because you said this happened a year ago, or is this something that's happening organization-wide, where they're reviewing roles and descriptions and, because I'd love to see community health have the same job titles as Charlottesville. That would be so amazing.
Unfortunately, that's not what it is. So, and I would love that as well. I think it would make all of our lives a lot easier for standardized role assignments, et cetera. So HR, career journeys affected everybody in HR, in UVA. The request to correct it was led by us on the leadership team after reviewing it and realizing that this may cause some issue. Full disclosure, I did want to share this with the team as soon as it happened, because I was worried. And I was asked, let's work to see if we could fix this first. So that was our SFD, do you call it? Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Short first draft.
Short first draft, there you go. It was our short first draft.
Sloppy.
Sloppy first draft, there you go, as well. I'll take that. So we took this as a lesson learned. We did convene internally and shared what the intention, what we were trying to do as far as resolving it. So I'll continue to work through that, and I'll make sure that I keep you guys updated. But I wanted to make sure that just, I think the health of a team is our ability to discuss problems and in failures, right? Challenges that we are faced with, and this is us doing that.
Can I ask a quick question about the profiles, and you're pulling them up now, but, so I know the intention from HR was to have the 4 tiers of growth, but since we have 2 separate, essentially roles with the trainers, the CTs and the PTs, that kind of limits the growth, essentially, depending on what role we're in. So like, I'm assuming like CTs are kind of limited to the 1 and 2, and PTs are 3 and 4. When you read that description, like, it's gonna be kind of hard to move into that 4, so like, is there discussion about, revising it further to still allow for those growth potentials for us?
And the discussion's happening right
Okay.
now,
Okay.
as a matter of fact. So, but honestly, I'm just aside. So what you're seeing here is essentially the structure that existed 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
All right. We had these job titles, right? These job roles, but essentially we're just lumped into the IT training professionals. So by us reverting and going back to the pre-Jose,
So we're all
step,
going back to the old.
we're going back to
Okay.
what they originally put us in, as far as, the intention is for us to go back to the position that they originally put us in after career journeys, and this is essentially it.
Okay.
What I want to carve out is, and what we discussed internally with the team, please keep me honest if I start to go into some delirium. There are 5 different roles on the team, essentially, right? Am I missing anybody? I think that's pretty much it. So we have new hire specialists, we have LMS administrators, we have principal trainers, we have credential trainers, right? And then we have e-learning developers.
And then we.
Project.
The coordinators are in a category of their own. We're not even talking coordinators right now. But, so essentially, all of you will fall within one of these brackets or one of these levels. What we're gonna do is leverage the system that they gave us and make sure that we provide some clarity with it. What it doesn't solve is the internal pipeline, if you will, like from position to position, which we were trying to create. But what I wanna say, and I wanna drive this home, is a PT and a training professional of 3 or 4 should not be compared to a CT or a credential trainer in an IT training position 3 and 4. They're very different roles, right? There's some overlaps. There's a lot of overlaps with all these positions. E-learning developers are essentially, principal trainers in my mind are instructional designers. E-learning developers are also instructional designers in my mind. A CT could be an instructional designer, depending on their level of involvement in the curriculum development as well. So there's a lot of overlap as well, right? So we just want to keep that in mind. I think we want to say it as like primary and secondary responsibilities for each one of these roles, right? So what I don't want us to do is start looking at each other like, oh, you're a IT training professional too, and I'm this, and then but I'm doing this and you're doing that, and then have that kind of squabble. It doesn't make sense to me. It's very different for each role. And what we're gonna do is, we're gonna go back yet again and look at our job descriptions that we created and ensure that we have clear distinction for each one of these roles in the job descriptions at each one of these levels. So you can make it clear as far as where you're at currently, what the progression will look like. That makes sense?
So another 9 months.
No,
Okay.
no.
I'm just being.
I would like to have these job descriptions, these updated job descriptions to you by the end of August.
Good luck.
The managers just learned that right now, by the way.
Yeah.
But I would like for us to get that to you, before the end of summer.
That'd be awesome.
Jess?
Out of curiosity, where did IT training professional come from? Did that, just because I'm asking, I consider us SMEs, we are subject matter experts. My brother trolls me all the time when I ask him an IT question. He's like, you work in IT? No, I work with Epic. Thank you. So why was my badge says EMR training specialist. So why was EMR Epic taken out of this?
I don't know. I wish I could answer that question. We weren't at the table when those nomenclatures were selected. I'm sure that they had some type of rationale or somebody that they worked with, but it wasn't us.
Okay.
Yeah. I wish I could give you a more, that's just honest answer. Yes.
What was my question? So.
All right, too late. Anyone else?
I think it's very confusing, frustrating, all these things, because there are so many different ways to describe us, and it depends on where you came in, where you came from, and I'm sure we could all look at our badges and it'll be a plethora of variations of things.
Yeah.
And I know that me personally, I'm a person that clear as kind, going back to Brene Brown, and it has been quite some time since it's been clear on what is available next. And looking at this and hearing the conversations, it's still not clear on if, I know what I like, I know what brings me joy, I know what I'm good at, what skills I have, but I don't know what that would be called at UVA. I don't know what I would even look for, what I would, going into workday, and I don't know, in looking at this, how I could go from one spot to the next without, what am I trying to say? I don't know how I could level up, and I know that you did some work when you first came on figuring out how we could move and promote, internally, and have this quarterly thing, and I got excited about that.
Yeah,
And
that wasn't me, by the way. That structure existed before we spoke about the quararly promotional process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, around similar timing, it's something that it came up and then it went away, and it's it's just very, like I said, it's just confusing, and I've worked with HR, and I've worked with, you know, the job descriptions and things like that, but like, the job profile versus like what our job is, our titles, like, how does that come into play when we're looking at our levels? I guess is one question that I have. So, does everyone at the same level, under a credential trainer, have the same job title? Or is there a potential for a level 2 credential trainer to have a different job title?
Thank you for explaining that a little bit more. The next thing I was gonna say related to the reversion, if you will, or reverting back to where we did prior to the changes, is just that. Fixing and standardizing our business titles. So I think that's what you're referring to, the business titles versus like what people call us, like our actual titles, right? So we are looking, so a couple things. We are looking to standardize that into HIT, right? That is your area. The for now, the revenue cycle, right? Your team specific or clinical, and then your role or your title. So if you're a credential trainer, principal trainer, and then we even discussed for those of us who have worked hard for those senior designations, and those of you who are functioning as leads, we wanted to incorporate that also back into those business titles for those designations. So even though that structure, the senior, et cetera, that's technically gone, I know that you all, for those of you who have that designation, we worked for it. So if it helps, by all means, we want to give that back. But I want to talk about the HIT piece of it in just a little, if I can. But I hope that answers a little bit. So we're going back to some of the business titles as well.
Okay.
We actually all had different business titles. I see you, Emily. We all had different business titles. We all actually had different functional units as well. That was another piece that we had to fix. Some of you still belong to administrative access. I think Molly was EMR for whatever reason. I think Erin would still belong to the prior role that she was in. And a lot of times when you guys transition, so some of you who like transition to training services, like I think Ruth still was like under clinical training, or like some of you still kept those same functional units in Workday. So we worked to update that as well. So I think it's important for us to have a clear identity, to your point. Like what are our names? I think Confucius said that the first line of step in wisdom is calling something by its appropriate name. And right now we have a bunch of different job titles. Some of us on our signatures put IT training professionals. Some of us still kept the IT analyst thing on it. So it's all over the place, right? Our functional units were different places. Someone would look at us as an email. They wouldn't know where we worked and what we did, right? So we wanted to address that as well, and I'll plan on touching on that in a second. Emily?
May I clarify, are we moving back to the 1, 2, 3, 4 tiered system? Is that what's supposed to, because I know that there's also special or senior intermediate, which I believe I have really trouble wrangling in my memory without looking right at Workday. So is the 1, 2, 3, 4 tiered? Yeah, you just said yes to that. So when we revert, would there be an opportunity prior to the reconfiguration to assess whether we are in the correct tier? And pause there and get in sort of because there's an alignment in that 1, 2, 3, 4 system. Well, would there be an opportunity before we move on to ensure that we're at the right tier according to the description of that tier?
I would say yes, but the first things first is to put you guys back to where you were prior to 2 weeks ago.
Right. So of course that'll come first.
It's still more work that we have to do with HR to kind of untangle that knot.
But some of us, I think we acknowledged at the beginning, some of that assignment, which was HR, which assigned us that, right? Some of that seemed a little bit not fit for the actual role the person was doing. So could we consider aligning that prior to taking any future steps towards realignment of sort of current state? Or, I mean, just take it as a potential question, because I think it would be lovely to start future moves from a place that aligns with that 1, 2, 3, 4 designation, which is fairly clearly explicated.
I think, what you're asking for is for us to, do a deeper review into everybody's levels, just to ensure that where HR placed you at was appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanna make sure I'm summarizing.
Yeah, thank you.
I agree that that is something that we're gonna continue working on.
And then the other thought I wanted to say was like, what's in a name? I loved the like assignment, I guess, of the title analyst in the principal trainer domain, because we do analyze training needs, we analyze, training environment build needs, and so, potentially keeping that on the table would be appealing.
Well, I can tell you that, we can review that.
Thank you.
But to your first question, I don't wanna wait for that fix before, doing this or reverting, because, there's some more immediate, consequences related to that'll affect some of our team members. So I don't want our team members, the affected team members to continue to be affected that way.
Yeah.
So I would rather do an immediate fix and then just dedicate us to finding another, alternative path, for us. I can't promise anything. This is HR that we're dealing with, and we have some limitations, right? So, but what I will promise is that we'll look at it, entirely and ensure that we do our diligence. Tom?
Trying to think how to frame my question. So if we roll back, does that mean that we're gonna go back to having to essentially wait for somebody to keel over before a high level position opens up?
Well, we don't have to wait for them to keel over, we can help them keel over. So, jokes aside, there's gonna be a limitation in any organization, in any structure that we're gonna have to be faced with. So on any kind of tier, level discussion, any organization, any team, not just training, there's always gonna be some limitations as far as where to go. I've been there before, I've been, in different roles where we had different levels. I've had them like wipe it clean and say, all right, you guys are starting back at 0, and then you have to apply or redo, go through that whole process. I've done that several different times. I've also, in one of my, when I was at Hopkins, I got to a point where my next role that would in the chain or the ladder was a role that I was not interested in, as far as the levels of responsibilities. And I had a choice at that point. And I'm not saying this for you guys to make a choice, but I had to make a decision. Either this is my next step for me, or I'm gonna have to find a different path. And again, I hope that you guys are not taking that, hope is lost, let me look for another job. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's gonna be a limitation as far as the levels of growth in every single job. So there's other things that we could do, like once a person reaches like a max, but we would have to talk about those individually when that time comes. So hopefully nobody keels over. But I, jokes aside, I do understand that that's a real thing. So we are mindful of that, and we're also looking for different ways to promote ourselves and promote our team members. I know it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but I hope it satiated the ask. All right, keep us going. So more to come. You get some communications from us about these job profiles, especially once we meet with HR and the next steps. Those of you who have reached out to me individually, you should plan to hear from me directly, and then everybody else will have a central communication once that takes place. Ruth?
I'd just like to say thank you to all of you all who listened and worked on this. It means a lot to know that you all have our backs.
And listen.
Yes.
Thank you, Ruth. Two clap. Keeping us have, and just a reminder, we are where we are, right? Or where we currently are. This is the stage that we're talking about. So what I want to talk about really quickly, I'm sure, maybe I shouldn't say I'm sure. The managers, everybody got your evaluations already?
No.
There's a couple still? Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't say that. So if you haven't had your evaluation already, some of you who have, they may have shared the cascaded goal with you for the year already. For those of you who haven't had your evaluation, spoiler alert. All right, that's a lot to read. But you will have this in your workday. I will keep in mind that there is a possibility we'll have another HIT cascaded goal. There's been some discussions related to an HIT cascaded goal, so there may be yet another goal. Just want to put that out there just in case that materializes. But our goal this year is about rounding. And a lot of us have been doing this recently. I think secure chat, as much of a pain as that was, what it served is almost like a unifying tool. I didn't realize that training services was coming out to round, and everybody, it was kind of like all hands on deck. And whether you were rounding or attending the how-to help desk, or everybody had a different role. So these major things that happen like this, it was a proud moment when I saw the support schedule, and I was like, wow, like we are doing the dang thing. Like we got everybody involved, and it was very nice to see. I would say that. So rounding is something that's not as a flavor of the month. It's not something that's going to go away. It's going to be an expectation, not just of us. There is also an HIT director and above expectation that Sonny has set for all of his reports and all of his those verticals to also round on a regular basis. So again, this is not a picking on training team. I think we led the way along with clinical informatics. They were rounding on a monthly basis. We started joining them. We were having a lot of fun. We expanded it more, and then now we have our monthly rounding parties. Mind you, there's a couple things for us to flesh out still with regards to this whole process. And the key thing is a key component is how we are internally sharing those results from or findings from those rounding sessions. Right now, what I have been doing, and the reason why I've been a pest about this dang rounding tool and using it is because it is a wonderful way for us to capture all of the findings and resolutions and the different touch points that we've had during our rounding sessions. I take that information and I summarize it into the different locations, the topics and trends, and anything immediate, like for training specifically that we had to address. I present that to the clinical nurse managers meeting on a monthly basis now. So I have a standing place, a segment that I kick off their meeting actually, which is interesting. So like Rachel Nauman will like start talking whatever introductions, and then I'm up first, which is an honor. So I get to share those topics that have been like surfaced from your rounding efforts. And then I send all that also to Steve and to the USEP team, and they incorporate it into the Sun article so it gets distributed to our super user network. So all of that is great, but I think there's a missing component of us sharing it internally, right? So that we can learn from each other. So I don't know if we have time to do this during our monthly all hands meetings. I do know that at Maryland, we had a section, it was really brief, and it was part of our all hands meetings where we shared those purposeful rounding topics and some tidbits that we've learned through our rounding so that we can collectively learn. Take that information, update content, make notes on our curriculum. We can also take our ServiceNow tickets and draw themes up from them as well, so that way we have more of an inclusive learning ecosystem, and that's what we're building. So this, I won't read everything on it, but it's essentially for us, the goal is for us to be rounding on a regular basis and using the tool to capture our findings. Meets expectations is to conduct at least 6 roundings during the year. So that's like once every other month, if you look at it that way. Or, and we have, where's Mel? We have 2 sessions, 2 times that we or 2 opportunities that we've been identifying on a regular basis. So for some of you who are virtual, right, this is gonna be a little challenging. So you're not here all the time. So if you're rounding tomorrow, you can capture it, you can take advantage of this. But there's also some virtual rounding opportunities. Mind you, we are still building some momentum around that process, but we wanna make sure it's all inclusive, and we wanna make sure that people are not left out of this goal or making it impossible to meet or exceed these expectations. Jess?
Speaking of the remote people, well, actually, we're all remote. And this is not taking shots at our out-of-towners, but I feel like the people who live locally are set, we're held at a higher expectation to be present and in person on site to round. Are we, like, I live 25 minutes from UVA. Can I do virtual rounding, or do I have to be present, like?
I think that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
There's gonna be times where you're working on projects or doing, like, have a lot of other initiatives that you're working on. So you, absolutely, the virtual rounding is not limited to the folks that don't live in Virginia. I think I saw Candace first.
So I guess my question is, does it count to round outside of the scheduled rounding that
Absolutely.
we have? And, is it okay, of course, working with, your manager, to just find opportunities, or like if you're in contact with somebody from operations and you see it as one, to just say, I'm just gonna go and, be with them and check on these people, okay?
Absolutely, 100% yes. I'll steal one of Kate's sayings yesterday. Feel free to charter your own course as well, right? So we're providing some opportunities to round as a group, but if you have a specific opportunity where you can be on site, shadow, or meet with them, or whatever the case is, even virtually, right? So some of you, like, I'm gonna pick on Kim because you're right in front of me. So like if she is like, has a cardiology manager that she wants to spend some time with or introduce herself to, whatever have you, you can count that as a virtual rounding, and then document it, and then we can incorporate that within our monthly summaries. Megan and then Court.
That we need another spreadsheet or whatever, but is there a particular way that you would like us to document? Like, is there a format that we all need to follow? Does somebody need to create this?
So the format exists already. We have the rounding tool. The rounding tool has those questions that we want to ask. You just fill that. So on the back end, I export it into an Excel sheet, and then I do my analysis that way. So we don't have to create another spreadsheet. We already had one. So essentially, we just use the rounding tool, and then we'll be able to capture all of that. Yeah.
She asked my question.
Okay, great. Jess?
Well, Court was next.
Oh, Court, I'm sorry.
So I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, but so could we
Yes.
theoretically, sweet, all right. Get ready, more
You're getting a raise.
Could we theoretically have folks go and shadow roles and count that as rounding?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
because on the crosswalk, we could find a template, say, there are these users on this template, can someone go shadow this person and see what the heck they do?
Stop talking.
So like.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And the answer is absolutely yes. Jim?
Sorry, number one, I was really remiss in not recognizing the OB team earlier. I just want to thank them for the work, and Lisa and Tom for filling in the role. That's a good segue to my next question. Can we have role-specific rounding questions? Because this is gonna sound terrible, but I'm not terribly interested in talking about epic build. I had a lot of questions from nurses about, why'd you change the navigator? Well, I didn't do anything. But I'm really interested in the new hire experience, the onboarding experience, overloaded in training. There's a lot of questions our team like to ask that's kind of more relevant to our work.
Absolutely. I think that's a brilliant idea. I try to have something we call them purposeful rounding topics. So I like to keep those in my pocket, because if I run into anybody, I'm always gonna ask them, like, who's your super user on your unit? Like, have you ever heard of the super user program? Like, you know,
Jose's our best super user.
so like, just to have something to share or ask a question about, I'm always asking questions like, do you recall when you went to training, what do you remember about it? And that I hear oftentimes, oh, it's too much, oh my God, I can't believe you guys make us do it. But yeah, absolutely, to both accounts. Yes.
So last week, Erica, Mel, and myself spent over 3 hours in the transfer center doing an ad hoc rounding with them. But we only filled out one, well, Mel filled out the rounding tool form for all 3 of us. So
Yep.
if we're not tracking it on a spreadsheet or something somewhere, if we're just using the rounding tool, does that mean that all 3 people need to fill one out for the
Nope.
same person?
So, Mel, thank you. Mel has very detailed notes. I love it when we get notified whenever someone submits something. I saw she entered all your names on it.
Okay.
So it's accounted for.
Okay.
Yeah. And
There's a capability to add.
yeah, you can have multiple different people.
I did that when I went to the last rounding.
Mhm.
I keep
filled out
all the
the form.
emails that I send out to the trainers, so if you attend training, I have the emails, all in one little folder, so at the end, what we can do is I can even make like a little attendance sheet or something like that, and then we can go from there, so we'll figure all that out together and we'll make it work, so.
And so these are great ideas. I'm glad I'm recording it, so I can, because I'm probably not gonna remember it, but I can always depend on the recording. Kim, you had a hesitant
I
question?
just want to share, that I did get a nice compliment. I was not there at the transfer center, but I did get a nice compliment from, one of the end users there. And he also, this was during the super user meeting, the monthly meeting, and he said, if any of you haven't had anybody come for roundings, I highly recommend it. So it's really,
I love hearing that. I love
He was really nice.
And can we get the emails sent for the rounding, like the locations and the spreadsheet, sent to the training services individually? Because y'all are sending it to the training services mailbox, and sometimes they get lost in that mailbox. Cause we're doing new hires, we got like 50 emails in there. So we're missing them. I didn't even realize that's where they were going.
Okay, well, Mel is furiously taking some notes right now, so.
I don't know what I think it's CL, HIT training.
HITTS.
There you go.
And my autocorrect always changes it to hot, H-O-T, and I always say it out like hot training service. You guys know. So I know you guys have seen this graphic before. I like it, so I'm reusing it. But this is essentially our learning ecosystem that we're building here. Our information changes is still dynamic. It doesn't stay still long enough for us to just depend on our traditional methods of education. So as much as things change and as much as the experience that our learners changes, it's important for us to look at everything that we're doing as one whole organism, like a whole learning ecosystem. So from the service desk, from those tickets, we haven't really been leveraging them as much as possible, but I think we could draw some themes from that as well that will help us during our rounding, right? From different areas that we receive tickets from. We have our super users, and now we have our power users program as well. We have our monthly rounding. The clinical informatics rounding still takes place. I think Molly was with them recently, last week. And then we have our design committees as well that are clinician-led work groups to help optimize the system. And then of course, our new hire training and feedback surveys that we're working on improving as part of like the our general process, but our RBI process, but then also our KITE initiative. So, anywho, moving us right along.
Okay, can I just ask, can we do a pulse check on a break, or are we just
Yes.
rolling? I know we have time, I know.
Could we roll?
I can,
Is anyone like gonna go on themselves or anything? If you need to use the bathroom, please by all means excuse yourself. I was gonna take a little break. We kind of ran over a little bit, I wanna get to the meat of this, if I can, so we have time for our breakout sessions. But if you need to use the restroom, please don't just hold it and get a UTI or something. All right. So I wanted to give, this part I'll go through really quickly. I wanna be transparent and give you a little insight into the way we're gonna look at evaluations this coming year. I'm not a huge fan of, I'm not a huge fan, I will pause myself. I'm not a huge fan of our HR evaluation process. I think it's very, almost like it's too centric around goals and not necessarily our overall performance. So the way I've been used to evaluating people over the last few decades is looking at things from a lens of the what, the how, and then your goals. What I don't want you guys to do is harp on these percentages. Those are weights that we added just so you can understand like how much of a focus we would have on these specific areas, all right? There's no weight distribution in Workday, so we can't put like 60% or anything like that, so I just want to clarify that piece. The way I've always looked at things is the bulk of what we do is falls within the what, our job duties and our responsibilities. So if we were to perform our job duties and our responsibilities to a T, that still would be about around the 60%. All of us are educators here. That is a failure, that is a D, right? All right. The how, our behaviors, the way we collaborate, you know, our soft skills, you know, the way we interact with each other and other teams, you know, as well, is the how. Like, how do we go about doing that actual work? So we want to look at that as well. And honestly, it'd probably be more than 20% if it was more than 100. But then I want to look at our goals as well, right? So our goals, we have around like 20%. Even though it is important for us to achieve our goals, I want us to really start looking at overall, like what we're doing, our overall job functions, and not just us checking a box. It seems like it's like evaluation time, oh, we gotta do that. And no one likes doing evaluations, except our managers, they love them. Aaron and Molly and them, they absolutely love them. No, I'm joking. But I actually do love doing a performance evaluation because it means a lot. It means a lot to me that the person is actually paying attention to all the work that you're doing throughout the year. And it was incredibly humbling, you know, to have a really good evaluation and someone that actually paid attention throughout the course of the year versus just checking the box. Our goals, right? A lot of us have waited to the last a mad dash at the end of the fiscal year to achieve the goals and things like that, right? Because it's been treated as something like a checkbox. What I want us to do, and what I tasked the managers to do, is to have a specific quarterly sit-down sessions with each of you, so that they're specific to reviewing your goals. You guys meet with your managers on a regular basis anyways. You talk about a wide array of different things, but what I've asked the managers to have a specific meeting about your goals specifically. The intention behind that is that the first sit down, you would have achieved 25% of your goal, right? The second sit down, 50%, the third sit down, 75%, and by the time the fourth sit down, which is the actual evaluation, you would have already crushed that goal. And that's the intention behind it. What we want to do is help you ensure that you, or help ensure that you achieve your goals, because ultimately you guys help us achieve ours. So I just want to pause for a second. This little screenshot, it's just a screenshot of the tool that we've created to use internally, and again, that's for the managers, but we wanted to be a little transparent as far as like the way we would be looking at evaluations this coming year. And of course, I'm including inspired values, and there's a section on here for professional development and growth planning as well, so that we can take notes and have a document that we use throughout the entire year. Have any of you guys ever go back and look at notes from like earlier in the year? Right? We do a lot, and we're exposed to a lot, so we have a central document that will be able to capture all of that, making things easy for all of us. Any questions about that?
How, I know you said this is internal, how will this translate to our actual HR evaluation?
Copy and paste. Jokes aside, so what exists in Workday is, system, designed.
Yeah.
That's not gonna change. But what would change is, how we're capturing the information and presenting it to you
Okay.
throughout the year.
Yeah, I know like before COVID, our evaluations used to be broken out into different sections similar to that, where you got rated on your actual work skills, your Aspire values, et cetera. Like there's more opportunity to rate different things that you were doing. It wasn't just to write a couple paragraphs about what you did last year, and checking a box. But after COVID, it just went to this more, the format it is now. And they also took away kind of the percentages, like this is like I think pretty much everybody gets the same raise now, and we used to get raises based off of our scores, so I think this is good, I agree with you, like I don't like the format that it is now, because it's just, you know.
And what we wanna do is make sure that whatever we created was in line with what HR had for us as well, so, this allows us to do that, but also through a different, chunking out, like how we are providing that feedback.
Cool.
I have a question about that.
Yep.
I know, different departments handle it differently, but it's always been, like, Melissa said, how we used to have, if you were on meets, you would get a certain percentage, and if you were in exceeds, you get a certain percentage. And now it's like, well, if you started on this date, you get a certain percentage, and if you've been here the whole time, everyone gets the same thing. And so I guess like, besides just wanting to do well and, exceed because that's just, it feels good, is there gonna be, an opportunity to look at additional incentives? Because I think one thing that I've been, thinking about, like I wanna do well and exceed, I wanna learn, I wanna grow. And it's kind of been, because we've had all these challenges with our job profiles and stuff like that, it's been like, okay, if I'm exceeding in this area, if I'm doing well, or if I'm growing in this area, what is going to be the difference between me getting on the scale a 70% versus, a 90%? And like, I guess, like she kind of said, like, how will that be reflected, and how are we going to, besides my work just showing for itself, how is that gonna be in alignment with, my rewards or, things like that?
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is, the transition from, merit-based, to like, what do they call it, market or just, cost of living increases. And, I believe that transition, as you mentioned, happened years ago. I don't know, I can't speak to what HR is going to do. I know that we've been advocates of that, and anytime that we get an opportunity or audience with HR, that is something that we share with them as well, as far as like what we want and what the workforce needs. But I unfortunately can't speak to what their intentions are moving forward.
Right, but as far as the department, because I know other departments, if someone gets an exceeds, they get an Aspire bonus. Or, they are put in this pool to be maybe put in this certain position. So I think that's more what I'm asking, like things that maybe departmentally we have a little bit more, that we can, not depend on HR.
Yeah.
But just thinking about that.
I think we need to meet internally to discuss that and what those options are and opportunities, but, I agree with you. It is nice to be recognized, for good work, for sure. One thing I will share really quickly, and not to negate anything that you were saying, in the organizations that I've worked in, they always had the same issue, right? Like, the last organization I was at, it was like 2%, that's what you got. You exceeded, you got 2%. You just scaled by, you got 2%. And a lot of times, I had the same question asked to me then. And my response will be the same that I'm going to say now. If it's nice to be recognized, it's nice to be compensated for good work, but there's different ways to be compensated. So in today's market, we all wanna be monetarily compensated, right? We're paying $30 a bag of groceries, you know, gas $4.5, dollars, a gallon, that's, the reality starts to settle. But one thing that I did, is I didn't think about that. And I know that's not what you want to hear. But what benefited me was my investment in myself and learning as much as I could where I was at. And that paid off more than any dividends, right? So like the amount, I've always volunteered for everything. Like I wanted to do extra things, not just because I wanted a brown nose or anything. I like exposure, I like that opportunity, I like that experience. And I really lean into that. One thing about Hopkins, you guys know about Hopkins, right? You guys heard it before. World-renowned organization, their pay is not great. It's always been that way. What they, and I'm probably sharing too much, but they had the prestige of their name, right? So, and they used to always say that, well, you work at Hopkins, you don't need any money. Well, not really. But I do also remember times where, as a leader, and supporting my family, I had to make a choice between parking in the garage or down the street and walking and sweating to get to a meeting, right? Because I couldn't afford the parking. But I wanted to be in that room, right? So I did whatever I had to get that experience. And that experience pays off more than any kind of dollar per hour that you're gonna get. And I'll again, I know that may not be the answer that you're looking for, but I just wanna offer another perspective as well. We have a lot of opportunity to get exposure and learn a lot of things. And even if we can't necessarily mirror that compensation based on your effort, I will put money down, and I'm not a gambling man, but I'll put money down that it will pay off in the end as far as experiences are concerned. Many of you in this room right now have worked above your capacity or like your levels that you were in, and it has paid off for you to get here. I don't think that this is a starting point. I think it's like none of us get into training initially. Like project management and training are two careers that people just like grow up as kids and say, you know what, I want to be a trainer, I want to be a project manager. They're always secondary career choices. So you have your initial pathway. Many of us worked in operations as well, right? Supervisors, managers in different capacities, access specialists, clinician. We've all had those different experiences, but they all led to us getting here. Those challenges that we talked about earlier, those are really, those challenges are what are growth maximizers, if you will, for all of us, and that allowed us to be, who we are and who we present as today. So, not saying that we won't look at that, we'll continue advocating, but we do have some limitations, so I do offer that alternative perspective. That's helpful. Jenny?
I just had one thought as you were talking about that, so to kind of piggyback on Candace's question about the incentive, I guess in the end, with this new job title alignment that is being discussed and looked at, I guess in the end, the ultimate payout is to move yourself up within the organization or, so you don't get the immediate, incentive for exceeding and doing all of those things, but ultimately, hopefully, at some point, you can move up within once the alignments are all in place and that stuff is all figured out. I feel like in the end, it pays out in other ways that it may not be right this very second, like it used to. But at least you have that growth potential once all that stuff is, figured out.
Agreed. Thank you, Geneva. All right. You want to get to some fun stuff? I feel like we've, you took a turn here for a second down this road. All right. So I want to talk about where we're going. I'm going to do this as quickly as possible, but respectfully, and I know there's going to be some questions. So we are here, 2026, and our goal is to become future ready. So a lot has happened. We went through Epic Phase 1, 2009, Epic Phase 2, around 2017. We joined forces with Revenue Cycle. We formulated a training services team. We acquired 3 community health hospitals. This strange Puerto Rican guy came, and then we erected some programs, right? And here we are today. So the first thing I want to talk about is an Epic refuel. So I see Joy had a nice smile. Anyone else that's familiar with a refuel? Carrie, I got Liz. Okay, a few of us. Tell me, what is the refuel? Anyone?
Active foundation.
Right. So a refuel is a process that lets organizations migrate new foundational system content into our version of Epic. It aligns the requirements that we need in order for a lot of things to happen. And one of those things I'll just make mention of is like our AI models. We have our Epic Generative AI Initiative. It is about, I don't know, maybe 50 to 75 different modules that are going to be released into the wild, into Epic. But in order for them to function as intended, and this is one piece of it, in order to function as intended, we need to be closer to foundation. That's just, again, one justification for it. The areas that we're looking at that are most unaligned with foundation are the 4 different areas that we have here, which is ambulatory. It's huge, right? Beacon, part of ambulatory, orders, and then also a ClinDoc for our nursing. Any surprises about those? We've customized them to death, and in some cases, I don't have the exact percentages right in front of you, but in one of these are like 11% close to foundation. We've customized it so much that we've created problems for ourselves, right? And the creation of content, the creation of training, our dependency on analysts for their build so that we can create content, all of that is dependent upon our alignment with foundation. So if we were closer to foundation, the idea of waiting for an analyst to finish their build before we could create content, that dependency goes away, or minimizes, I should say. The amount of content that we can use out of box, as they call it, from Epic or what they provide, relearnings and such, starts to increase, right? So the amount of production time decreases because we can leverage what they already provided. So there's a lot of benefits to this as well. There is a lot of work that's involved in order to get us back closer to foundation. So, I went ahead of myself, but cuts down training content creation, allows us to use out-of-box content, increases team build team dependency, and it would also allow for this initiative, it would be a project, it would allow for us to contract some additional resources to help out with this effort. Now, we don't have an official start time, but we're looking at least like a 12 to 18 month runway for this work. And right now, there's a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes as far as strategy is concerned at a higher level, at Kate and Sunny and others level. And so we will be hearing more about as far as what this actually, the rollout's gonna look like, what the details are specifically, and when this work will actually start. The idea behind this is that the resources that we will be able to contract with, we could contract to come and do our work, our regular day-to-day, keep the lights on type of work. And we would select team members from one of you to be dedicated to the specific refuel work, considering that you're more familiar with the customizations and our UVA processes versus having someone else come in and try to discern what's necessarily UVA specific and not. I saw someone's hand up. Jess. Tammy. Okay. Jess.
And I know Liz can speak to this too. There's a lot of feedback that I've heard from people coming from other organizations talking about how they hate foundation and they love that UVA is so unique and it's more personal and stuff. Do we get buy-in from people? Like, do making our nursing staff aware? Or was it just like the upper, kind of like secure chat, no one knew until the day before?
There's a method that I say in class, there's the Epic way, then there's the UVA.
Yeah.
There's definitely a distinction with the amount of customization that I've seen from my pre-go-live years at 12 different hospitals. UVA really does take that at a higher, doesn't just take it face value, you can customize things.
I'm even
Yeah.
thinking of how this looked when we tried to go to standard templatization for providers. Even just talking about a standard template and schedule was
Yeah.
a huge, like, they felt like they were giving up something that meant everything to them.
Sure.
And they didn't like it, they were going down fighting, it was a fight.
I trained recently a new physician, and when I first saw her, I didn't know that she was one of our new informatics physicians, and she was just asking me all these questions, basically. It wasn't my normal training session, it was her learning about UVA, but, she said, is UVA close to foundation? I said, no. She said, well, great. She said, I'm so against it. Like, she was so against it. She said, it's terrible for clinicians. It's awful when we go back to foundation. I was like, oh, well, I hate to tell you. I think we're going that way.
To answer your question, as I mentioned, they are developing the strategy now, and I believe a communication piece is part of that strategy to those affected areas. I think everyone learned a lot from Secure Chat, and what we also know is that oftentimes the information that we share doesn't always get cascaded appropriately, right?
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, keeping the fact that we have a new CIO, and that we also have a new deputy CIO who's acutely aware of these challenges that the training team specifically deals with, I think we'll be in a lot better position as far as our communication strategy and also the overall rollout strategy is concerned. But it is a great question. Do you have anything you want to share with that, or you don't have to?
I would just say, right now, I wouldn't go out there talking about this right now, because I think we're trying to identify, so a refuel is not a black and white kind of thing. It's not, we're gonna go from being away from stand up. We'll be away from foundation and then we're gonna embrace it, completely. What we're actually looking at right now is Epic gave us some surveys to evaluate. Like this has been a learning experience for me. I thought, oh, they'll just run some analytics and say, you are 38% foundation. That's actually not how it works. They survey us and say, tell us about your workflows, and then they calculate it based on a survey. That's pretty imprecise. I was like, oh, okay, whose opinion is that? And when you do a refuel, you don't really, maybe one way is that you just wholesale adopt foundation, but that's not the way we're taking. We wanna get 80 to 90% to foundation, and we're gonna choose what that means for us. So do you remember like the Choose Your Own Adventure books when you were a kid? Love those books, those were awesome. That's what we're doing, and so, the conversations that we're having right now are, okay, Sunny, my boss, what does foundation mean to you? Is it 80%? Is it 90%? And if we're getting 80 or 90%, are we taking the big kahunas, like are we gonna tackle MedRec? Or are we gonna do like some little things that maybe we can do more on the margins? So there's like big rocks and little rocks, and Sunny said, don't you just throw a bunch of little rocks at me, I want you tackling some of the big stuff. And so, we are looking at that to make a recommendation, but we have not engaged operations in a meaningful way, and I would not want you to be on the front lines of that.
Yeah.
So you were very smart, Liz, not to say, you have no idea what's coming, because we actually don't know what is coming. We really need to decide. So, I have an ongoing note on my calendar to remind me that when we get far enough in the refuel evaluation phase, we need to do some lunch and learns with all of HIT and say, this is what this is gonna mean to you, and this is how we're gonna communicate it. So it is still early.
Thank you.
And
I don't
this-
wanna take too much of
thank
your
you.
time,
No, I
but
appreciate
that's-
that. But this is us presenting the changes that are coming well in advance, so that we can brace ourselves, you know, for what's coming. But, more information surely will come from that. Irene, did I see your hand up, or were you just moving? Okay.
So, when it came to the decision for the review, were a lot of clinical nurse involved in that decision, like actually asking Linda or nurse, hey, how do you feel about it? Would you look like, because I feel like a lot of decisions come from people who take a lot of money, like, I mean, just, you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
but like clinical folks, the more that are doing the work, are not maybe as much involved in those decisions, so will that be a consideration when you guys do decide, okay, we're gonna do 80%, you know, back to basics, however, let's ask Megan, who is Linda nurse, what do you prefer, or what do you use most, that would be so important for you to lose, and then you're gonna lose your, you know what, once you're on the floor, yeah. That
Yeah.
makes me nervous for the people who are truly using Epic, and not just discussing Epic.
Yeah. Here's what I would say. The momentum for refuel came from this is my opinion, from observing it, because I wasn't as involved in this, and now I'm also running the applications team. So I've gotten kind of a crash course on an interim basis, so I've gotten a crash course in the application space as well. So here's my take on what happened. Number one, it takes a lot of time. We have, if I throw out the word technical debt, you may not know what I mean by that, but I'll just explain. Technical debt is when it takes us a whole lot more time to support a system because we haven't made choices that make it easy to support. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kinda like you have debt in your bank account when you've made choices that maybe you shouldn't have made, and you have to pay it down. So we've made an accumulation of choices over since 2009, that have led us to have all this debt. And a lot of people know that. You all know it. Like our security templates alone, holy smokes. And so lots of people know that and want us to resolve it. And Sunny came in and said, what are we doing spending all this time supporting our existing systems? We need to pay down some of that debt. So refuel is a way to pay down that debt. That's one thing that's pushed it. So the pressure on us to be more innovative means that we need to spend less time doing day-to-day operations so we can spend more time doing innovative work.
Yes.
That's factor number one. And that is coming from people who do the everyday work. The other factor that's pushed us to refuel is Epic's releasing all this AI functionality, and a lot of people want it. They're hearing about new features that are available in Epic, and guess what? We can't take them because we're on non-foundation workflows, and the AI capabilities require foundation workflows. And so there's a lot of stuff that's coming out, and people are like, hey, I went to Epic and I heard about this, and we're like, oh yeah, sorry, can't do that because we're using this other workflow. And so that has combined to create momentum behind refuel. Does every nurse, doctor, new informatics provider come in and say this is a great idea? No, and it's not gonna happen, but I think that our trick will be to get the right people at the table as we go on the journey to make sure we make good choices. And some people will be angry and frustrated, and hopefully that will be fewer people than it has been in the past. That's the best honest answer I can give. I don't wanna take over your, AI, huh. Did you have something, don't let me continue to, like, you can cut this conversation off.
That's
if
fine,
you want.
I appreciate it.
It looks like Court wanted to ask a question.
So are we gonna push for standardized workflows across all the ambulatory clinics when we go back to?
I'm not willing to say yes.
It's unknown.
I think that would be, a goal is, more of that. I won't go all in on that, yeah.
The projects that are gonna be coming down the pipeline, some projects that have been decided 3, 6, 9 months ago for integrated applications instead of using Epic's homegrown applications. I think you know where I'm going with this. Has there been a cease of acceptance of these third-party application projects? How does that configure in? And it's specifically loaded, but there are a lot of integrated applications. And so strategically implementing, removing some of those other third party for these 4 applications first, so we could see?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I have, there are members of our team, another part of our team, that work for Kevin Greenwood, who are working on a project called Smart Subtraction, and that, it's been in trouble getting some momentum, but basically their whole job is to look at where we have third-party products that are doing things that, our strategic vendors like Epic, or Microsoft, or others, might offer that we can get at a better price point, that maybe we'd lose a little bit of functionality, but we'd gain simplicity. And there's an email chain in my inbox right now about Provation and Lumens and OnBase and what's the OnBase? There's a product in Epic. Epic has a product that will replace OnBase, and so there are multiple situations. There's a VoIP product in Epic. Phones, more phones in Epic, and so there's lots of things that we have, so that would replace Vocera, voice. There are lots of things we're looking at to move into Epic. I'm gonna tell you, like personally, the whole put all your eggs in one basket scares me a little bit. We had an internet outage last week, and holy smokes was that a big kahuna, because when the internet goes down now, we lose phones. And so we're starting to put lots of eggs in certain baskets and then look at it and go, yikes, if our internet access goes down, or like, we did a pause of Epic this morning, you guys may have heard. That was because, taking Secure Chat down is a really big deal. And they were like, no, you can't do that, like, you can't take an hour downtime in the middle of the night, and so we're having to really revisit how we do things as we make that move. So the answer to your question is yes, we are trying to stop the proliferation of third-party apps and be very intentional about it, and it is a journey, not a stop now and go this route.
It's a journey and not an event, for sure. Thank you. All right, this next one I'm gonna run through really quickly. I'm actually looking at Erin because I'm gonna ask her to come up here. I didn't tell her that I'm gonna do this either. I did. So we're talking about AI training, right? And there were some questions about do we have a training team specific to AI? And the answer is yes. So we've started it. It hasn't been officially like announced, formalized per se. But it entails of Erin is leading it. We have Justin, we have Liz, and we have Mel currently that's on the AI team. So there's a lot of efforts that are happening in the world of AI, as you can imagine. It's like the new shiny penny, if you will. But there's a lot of functionality related to it that we want to make sure that not only you, but the rest of the organization is familiar with it. So all of you probably have gone through or are scheduled to go through the 365 Microsoft integration. What takes place, by the way, it's amazing. They did this at and it changed everything, and I hated it. But this iteration of M365, I absolutely love it. The way everything works together is amazing. But that was the first step for us to provision Copilot and this is what I wanted you to explain a little bit more, because apparently I was underneath a different impression. You wanted to share a little bit about the Copilot training?
Yeah, and Molly, keep me honest, we just learned this yesterday. So with the 365 migration, you will get Copilot within Outlook itself. And then as we talk about next week, there's gonna be some other premium subscriptions that we will be getting as well. And so as we revamp our idea, we wanna kinda do an intro to AI, governance, risks, dependence, all of those things just like at a base level, be careful of, right? It doesn't replace you. But then as we get more and more access to applications and opportunities with Copilot or other learning modules, then we will provide some training on that. So might do a little bit of a pivot here in the next couple of weeks, but the idea is to give people training and workshops and things that they can lean on as we become more efficient and look to what our capacity is.
Yes, thank you. As you can tell, she didn't want to come to the front. You did a great job. Thank you. Thank
This is your sign.
So, along with that, as we mentioned, we have about 50, 75, somewhere in between, Epic generative AI models. We have a generative AI, location on our ELL, that Jim and team put together for us as well, that has a lot of good e-learnings on there, that help, to provide some insights into some of the models that are being released. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. It's a great site. And we're providing any other updates related to AI deployment, et cetera, at that location as well. So what Aaron just described is that the foundational AI training principles, which is what is AI? How does it work? What is machine learning? What is large language models? Well, how does all that work together, and what is it doing in the background, just to provide some foundational basic instruction related to AI. And then going into the actual use cases and the tools as a usage. So we were looking at this as basically like a foundation for the generative AI training, because the rest of the organization wants to know about AI as well. We've had some folks that reached out about Sidekick, which is the AI component that's tied to Slicer Dicer. A lot of folks on the revenue cycle side of things have been interested in learning more about that as well. But instead of teaching AI, right, you have to teach what is it doing in the background, what those risks are, what those potential like biases that may be formulated by overuse of it or over dependency, and as well as being familiarized with the guardrails that we have in place, the policies and the AI strategy and governance that we have in UVA. So all of that is very important for our clinicians to know and understand what AI is doing in the background. If a provider gave me a diagnosis and told me that AI generated that diagnosis based on my symptoms, right? I'm gonna ask them a little bit about that information. Like, how is my information being used? Is it secure? Like, I don't want my personal health information out in the AI world, right? But there are parameters and guardrails and security, especially at an enterprise-wide level, especially embedded in the EMR systems, that prevents security breaches like that. So, this is a way of teaching it the basic functionality, establishing confidence in the use of it, but also understanding that it's just a tool and it's not meant to replace us, right? It's a medical, it could be used as a medical tool or a diagnostic tool, but essentially the tool does its work, but it's the clinician's responsibility to diagnose and provide and develop that care plan for those patients. So that's what we're going to be focusing on related to that. I'm excited about this whole AI process. A lot of people they're chomping at the bit. I got asked yesterday, like, when is this happening? And I'm like, well, it's in the works, but a lot of people have been asking about when this training is coming. So looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for all those involved. All right, the meat of the meeting. So I want to say a lot of things. But what I want to say in particular is we've been using the word reorganization a lot. I have been using the word reorganization a lot. And I realized, I didn't realize initially, but I realized after some of my colleagues said, man, you should chill out using the word because it has like a negative connotation that comes along with it. Oftentimes people feel like I may lose my job, what's my future, with the organization, and it creates some uncertainty when you hear the word reorganization. So we're not calling it a reorganization anymore because it really isn't a reorganization. It is a redesign. So not only are we redesigning our team, our training team, there's also a redesign of HIT that's taking place as well, and you guys are going to learn more about that in the coming weeks. I was tempted, but then I was told just to calm down, and everybody will get to know in time. But there's some more initiatives to really, the redesign is to align us better with operations so that we can provide support to those who we serve. All right. Since, Kate has been doing the listening tours. Most of you participated in the listening tours. She's also going to share the results of those listening tours in the next couple weeks. I want to say a week.
It's at the all-staff meeting next week.
Next week.
Which you should all attend.
Yes.
In person if you'd like. We'll have food.
Yes, it was good, it's good food. So, Kate and team are going on a listening tour to hear from all of the HIT teams, different concerns, suggestions, etc. And a lot of things surfaced. Some were surprising, a lot of them weren't, and I think that you agree with a lot of that. But one thing we've heard that has been consistent is work balance, workload balance. So although I didn't attend all of the listening tours, I did attend one, but I feel like I've been on a listening tour over the last year and a half. And I've been listening to all of you. And you guys may remember initially, our initial one-on-ones, you guys shared a lot of things with me, and then you continued throughout the time here, which is great, because I needed to hear all that. But what I've heard consistently, the workload balance is off. It's not balanced, right? There are some folks that, or some who are more busier than others. And that's not a judgment. That's just a product of design. Like we've been very much based on our organized around our applications. Some applications have more demand than others, right? So naturally, those associated with those applications, the work varies. But we want to, again, we want to help with the workload balance. Balanced work distribution sounds like the same thing, but it's not. So this is related to the individuals on the team. So everybody, each role has different levels of responsibility as well, right? So I'm not, the day of an LMS administrator is different than the day of a credential trainer. Would everybody agree with that, right? Not saying that one's less than another, different roles, right? But if you're on the podium all day talking to somebody, that's a different type of work than does, nose down and on the laptop. I like having balance. I like that work, both. But again, I've heard over and over again that the balanced work distribution, or how the work gets distributed to different people, is off. Some people seem to get all the fun, all the projects. Some people get little or some projects. So it's just unbalanced. Again, not a criticism, it's just the reality of the design. I heard this numerous times. Again, I think it was the first week I got here, and I heard this from the managers right away, that there's an issue with a clear delineation of duties. Meaning like, what does a lead do? What does a project lead do? What does a CT who's working in this project do? What does a PT in the project do? So, and then on the clinical side, you guys are all of that, right? You guys are the CT, the PT, the project team member, and you're doing all of that at once, and often, and over and again, and over again. The cycle just continues. So some of us have different structures. The revenue cycle training team is designed differently, right? The PTs have a specific work, the CTs have specific work. There's a little bit more balance there, right? On the clinical side, again, imagine you inherit a curriculum and everything along with it. You have to maintain those lesson plans, all the content related to it as well. Things change rapidly and often, right, here. So we're constantly updating that as well. On top of that, next week I have to teach this class. There's some benefits to it, because now you're intimate with the content, right, that you're delivering. So there's some benefits to that, but it's also long-term, almost unsustainable. Curriculum development, and then you're also delivering the training. Not to mention, I haven't even talked about the project work. So the project work and the involvement with that. So now you're creating new content, you are updating old content, and then you have to deliver it, and then so the cycle again continues. What I've heard from the clinical side is that there isn't, I can't even take a vacation without worrying about my training or happening. Or I have to consider my training, the training that I offer, before I take or I schedule my vacation on my off week, right? But then there is no off week, especially if you're involved in project work. So it's like a never-ending hamster wheel that I want to get us off of. All right. So what I am recommending, And what I'm proposing is the new design, and to separate the teams based on functionality and not just application based. As you guys may have noticed over the last year especially, how many projects that we've been involved in that it's just been like application agnostic, right? Like we need revenue cycle, it's not just a revenue cycle project, not just a clinical project, it is both, right? And almost all of the projects that we've been faced with have a clinical side and then an access side to them. So, which is great because it's brought us together. We've been able to work together in a different capacity over the last year and a half because of all these different projects, right? And so that's great, but again, it doesn't solve, like the collaboration is great, but it doesn't solve these foundational issues that you guys have been sharing. So what I'm presenting is one team, one voice. Not just the 3 teams, one voice, or 3 teams, 3 voices, or a whole bunch of people with voices in your head. One team, one voice. And it's the HIT training team with different groups, with different sub-teams, and it's organizing it based on the responsibility. So we have the curriculum development team that will be responsible for the development, the maintenance, creation of training content, curriculum, etc. The training environment, which is, MST and all related to our training, our ACEs, etc. Project support, I think that will continue. Rounding, which will continue. And then specialized training. And I'll talk about specialized training in just a second. Centrally, I put training services centrally because you are a central component to make all of this happen. And we consist of our new hire specialists, LMS administrators, and the shift team. I think you guys are working on, I think you would call it the name, it was the Training Avengers or something. And but you're still working on a name, updated name. Then on the other side, we have our training delivery team. In the next couple of slides, I will explain these a little bit more, but they have the training delivery team. And that incorporates our instructor-led training, our virtual led training, our on-site training, because again, instructor-led training will not go away, and there will be more opportunities for us to provide more personalized training, personalization sessions, workflow analysis. I think you mentioned job shadowing or role shadowing as well. And then the rounding and the project support is the same. So of course there's some overlap. I know I can read all your minds. So right now, all of you are thinking, what team am I on? Is this all gonna be like one team that's gonna be converted to this, and then the other team converted to that? No. And that is what we are currently working on. We have started the analysis, but we want to make sure that we do this correctly. So before we get too far into it, we wanted to present it to you all. We've been sharing an analogy on the training team as I am Chef Boy Rodriguez right now, and I'm presenting you a pizza with just the dough and some sauce on it. But to really make this an enjoyable pizza, I need all of your ingredients, which are your thoughts and recommendations, in order to make it I won't say meat lovers or veggie lover or whatever, make it a real pizza, because we still have to make it.
Supreme.
It's supreme. I miss pizza. I can't eat pizza because I'm lactose, but it's one of the things I miss the most. I'm sorry, I digress. So, what I would say is, again, the team members, essentially, what I would say is, the team members that would be on the curriculum development team would be principal trainer type roles. And I'm saying that specifically like that. Because I look at principal trainers, as I mentioned earlier, as instructional designers. And instructional designers are a more globally understood function across markets. So it helps with market analysis and such, as well as identity. The principal trainer role, honestly, is an epic term. There are some camps that use principal trainers, I found, but it really derived from like Epic. It was like, you know, the whole process that they had. Then we have our training delivery team, which would be credential trainer-like roles. You know what I'm saying? Like roles as well. Because what the organization needs from us is not training. we want for us to distinguish ourselves from the rest of the organization to have an identity. There are a lot of trainers in the organization. I don't know if you guys realize that. I've met people that are like, I'm a trainer. I'm like, I don't know you. I train quality and whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. We need to connect, like, right? Honestly, we have a lot of problems. We have issues. We have concerns. We have things that we need to iron out. But the one thing that we have is a firmed up structure that works, and it's repeatable. You can duplicate it, and it could be leveraged across the board. Honestly, what we have, our process here, those other training teams ask us about what we do. They come to us oftentimes. Sometimes I punt them to the gym and other people to talk to them, but oftentimes they come to us for like consultation. They actually want us to do their work, right? But we have enough work of our own. So what we've done is we provide consultation to them. They're family members, right? UVA family members. So we meet with them, we review what they're trying to do, and we provide suggestions and consult with them. And we've done that on the clinical side, we've done that on the revenue side as well, or patient access side as well. But ultimately, we have the model and the structure that works. Yes?
So Teresa is asking, is there gonna be a break of,
Where's
she's gonna be here, she's on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Is there gonna be a distinction between clinical and rev cycle any longer?
No.
Or- Okay.
I would say that distinctly. And the reason being is because that's application specific. We're still gonna serve the same customers. We're still gonna have patient access customers, we're gonna have clinical customers, but we're not gonna have a patient or a patient access revenue cycle focused team per se. It will be the HIT training team, and we provide training for all roles.
And the trainers be cross-trained in the different areas?
We're getting there. We're getting there, yes.
And when is this model, did you already say this, and when is this model rolling out, or is it just?
I didn't say it yet.
Oh.
I am looking at July 2027. So over the next year, we have a runway to make some changes. Right, and we're gonna talk about like what those the next year will look like in just a second. So there's more work for us to do with regards to defining the work as the first step. Defining what it would look like is specifically for the instructional designers, the PTs underneath of the curriculum development team looks like, specifically with those different levels, right? As well as the training delivery team and what that actual work looks like. So again, we have a lot of work on our plates, which is why we're looking at a year time frame. To be fully transparent, we could probably just move to this in a couple months, right? But it'll be messy, and more importantly than just implementing it, I want to make sure that we go about it in the right way that everyone feels good about it. Jess, you had your hand up.
I'm just trying to understand why workflow analysis would be under the training delivery team and not the curriculum development team, or is that something that essentially you would work together on?
Everything we're still gonna work together on. Again, I mentioned the primary and secondary responsibilities. You know, curriculum development, even if they're not doing a training every week or every other week, like you guys are doing now, there's gonna be more than ample enough opportunity to do training. We have the specialized training listed down here. And again, so there's gonna be crossover. So some of the roles that are primary for this team or secondary for this team may be primary for this team and vice versa. So the training delivery team, again, function will be more on the delivery of training. I'm gonna talk more or less like what that looks like, especially tying it to converting all of our EPIC training to CBLs, right? The EPIC system access training, let me say that right. All the training that we provide that's linked to EPIC system access will be converted to like CBLs. So even our instructor-led training is gonna look very different. It won't be on the podium like a classroom per se. It may be smaller one-on-ones, one-on-twos, smaller groups. We used to, at Maryland, we had tabletop demonstrations often between different roles, and the PTs would lead it, and it was amazing to watch. Like having the nurse and then having the surgeon in the same room, and then they identify their workflows and they walk through it together, and it's always an eye-opening process for everybody involved. So there's a lot of specialized training opportunities and personalization sessions. Neil is doing personalization sessions now. That won't change. Again, the last thing we want to do is tell the trainer not to train. And I think it's important for us to be in the Gemba, tied to our customers, close to the people that we're serving, in order to develop our content. So again, primary and secondary responsibilities we're going to have on both sides. On the training delivery team side of it, it's not just all about instruction. That doesn't mean that you're not working with the PTs on developing content. Some of you have tip sheets that you create on a regular basis. I believe there's on the revenue cycle side, you have like a tipsy review process and all that. Some of that won't necessarily change. It'll just be more in collaboration, and it will be with extra support. Because it won't just be your 3 PTs. We have a whole slew of team members that can help. That will be application agnostic. Or I shouldn't say that. They will have multiple applications under those. All right. I'll leave this up here for just another couple seconds. Just look at it. You guys are gonna have access to this. I'm gonna share everything with you. Curriculum development team. So we have a ton of applications, as I mentioned earlier. We have 41 to be specific. We just ran an analysis of that just the other day. Don't look at these numbers here because that's just example as far as these don't represent people per se. And it's these applications that I put in here, we haven't finalized what these tiers will look like. But I wanted to explain this. So we're looking to organize the team, the curriculum development team, into 3 different tiers. The high demand, high usage applications, ambulatory, examples, ambulatory, ClinDoc, cadence, orders, right? And we'll have some built-in backups. There's a lot that's gonna happen with regards to capacity building, which means like learning new things for everybody. So there's gonna be an enormous amount of opportunities for growth and development just from learning the different applications, perhaps certifying the different applications as well. Tier 2, more moderate, or not more moderate, but moderate use, moderate demand. And that's the, again, these are examples. Some may argue Optime may be on tier 1, but I just threw some down. Prelude, Radiant, Optime. We have, again, 41 applications. I just have room to put a whole bunch of applications in there. And then tier 3, the more low usage, low demand applications. Some of our applications are like, we don't even teach anymore, right? We just like our support basis. We need some support, need to update our content, we will. Some of them are fully CBLs. And so that there's need to update the CBLs often, but not necessarily update the other content. So you have the 3 different tiers here. Questions about the tiers? I hope you're not shedding any. Training delivery team. All right. So, as I mentioned, we want to have an identity that our operations can identify with. And again, there's a lot of trainers in the organization. But we move to this model, we won't be functioning as the trainers of old. We'll be moving away from the sage on the stage to the guide on the side, right? So, and function more as coaching. So, just like a coach, it's not gonna be beneficial for them just to meet with us once. You imagine running a basketball team, we're coaching a basketball team, and you only coach it one time and expect them to win, right? It's not, that's what we're doing right now, is that we're meeting with our clinicians, meeting with our frontline team members once, and then expecting them to win. Or they need a coach. They need somebody that they can reach out to answer questions, and that's what we would be, provider coaches, HIT coaches, right? So again, the scope is instructor-led, on-site training, workflow analysis, again, all the same things here. And then the provider coaches, again, the provider onboarding, smart chart. We are, if you guys haven't seen this, right, what we're doing, we're basically scaling out the provider training program, right, for all the different roles. So right now, your providers get CPLs, they get access, and then what? Then they say help, and then you go help them, and you spend some time with them. That's essentially what we're looking to get to. So we're taking this model that Kate instilled years ago and just expanding it to the entire organization. And the reason why is because it works. I will tell you, I almost flipped out when I first got here and I heard that you guys teach every provider separately. I said, what? Like, how many providers do we have here? I can't believe we're doing that. But then I started thinking, we started doing personalization sessions for all roles in Maryland, and it worked like a charm. Everybody freaked out when I pitched the idea. It was like, how on earth are we gonna do this? And then the first day we went live with it, we got 75 requests for personalization sessions across different roles. And they were like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Then I was like, we'll just schedule. Like, how are we gonna do it? Just schedule it when it works for you and when it works for them. And then they did that, and then everybody came back and was like, why haven't we done this before? This is so much fun. I'd rather work with one person versus a whole group and not know what I'm getting. It's more controlled with one-on-one. And I see Justin nodding his head, and some of you who have done personalization sessions. I love my one-on-ones with you guys. So like just the time spent alone is amazing. So you can achieve quite a bit in that one-on-one time.
I can tell you that, like, when you did a lot of what you're talking about this morning, that's exactly what we're doing with Smart Start. And it's extremely rewarding to train people that way. I have an example, he's my shining star, like, because we offer providers as many training sessions as they want, one-on-one. And some of them take advantage of more than one, and some don't, because they're busy. But I had this one doctor, and he had been working in family medicine for 20 years, not with Epic, right? He came over to UVA, and he's gonna have to use Epic. And I said, well, we can have as many sessions as you want. I met with him 6 times, and then I went on site and I shadowed him, making sure he was doing everything efficiently. And after 6 months, I went into Signal, and he was way more efficient than all the other providers in that clinic, including one who'd been there like 15 years, because he was like, I'm gonna learn this. And we incrementally, we just built on his knowledge, and we got the efficiency, and then, like I said, I shadowed him, and he was just clipping along. I mean, he was so, it's very rewarding, especially when they take advantage of it,
Yes.
and then you can see that progress that they made, how well they did.
And you guys may not know this, but like Liz is like royalty amongst those providers. Not just Liz, but like I hear people they're like, you Justin's on your team, or like Liz on your team. Oh yeah. Like they remember you guys and the time that you spent with them because it's more personalized, it's one-on-one, and that's where we want to go. All right. As I mentioned, once we get to this, once we are able to convert these classes into a CBL format, the ones that are related to Epic Access, then it would afford us the opportunity and the time to not spend on the podium long hours, and we could rededicate it to other types of training events, such as personalizations. I want for us to get to personalizations for all roles. This will be a byproduct of the redesign of the team. It's not something that necessarily we will rush to now. I think it's a lot to do now with our current training schedule. But once these changes are made and the trainers are freed up from the podium, we'll have ample time to do this often. So the last thing I want to share is, this is, as I mentioned, I've been talking about the next year. This is not a change that's going to happen right now. None of you are going to feel this after we leave here. After you go home tomorrow, business as usual. You will hear back from us throughout this process. What I want to do is I want to ensure that we are bringing each and every one of you along the ride. Over the last 2 years, again, we made a lot of strides, we made a lot of efforts, and we've been able to do that with minimal turnover. and I want to keep that trend. We've only had 2 people leave in the last almost 2 years, and those are just retirement, right? It wasn't like, forget y'all, I'm out of here. It was, you know, they left for retirement. So I think that says a lot about our team. And again, we'll be sending out a survey on a quarterly basis, or even sooner, frequency-wise, to get your concerns about the challenge, about whatever it is that you presented today. We want to hear whatever concerns you may have, any suggestions, any things that we need to consider as part of this change. We realize we're blowing things up, so we want to minimize the debris in that process. But myself, Molly, Aaron, now Steve, like we can't think of every single little thing, but collectively we can. So you're gonna get a survey. You're also gonna get an interview by your manager, not for the position or anything like that, but more or less just to hear directly from you, like how much these different changes will affect you specifically. We want to account for all those concerns so that we can address them as part of our process of transitioning. So that we're not doing this change to you, we are doing this together. Again, this is over the next year. Over the next 2 years, again, the 3 phases is still in play. We're gonna still continue to do the shift work as instructional digitization. We're gonna look for opportunities for more TSAM appropriate optimization of our classes. And eventually we'll get to the student-centered learning, as I mentioned last year, where we have multiple modalities, right? And that's essentially what we'll have. We'll have a CBL for someone who is a digital native. If someone struggles with that and they're a digital migrant, then they can schedule time with us. We can still get them their training, get them their access. So we have different modalities, and we meet our learners where they're at. But no buts. Let me take that but, because that kind of negates everything I just said. And in the 2-year time frame, we want to get to HIT, become a true HIT training team. So it's one thing to change the name of our team to HIT training team versus like the EPIC training team, but to truly support all of HIT's efforts, not just EPIC. EPIC is one vendor, it's one program, but we have a lot of programs and a lot of vendors that need assistance. The ECG rollout that just took place, as you guys may have heard, is a great example of where they need our assistance. We were just brought in last evening to help out with some training efforts related to that because they're struggling a little bit. Again, and I'm not saying this to toot our own horns, but I'm just saying this because I truly believe this. No one can do what we're doing. We have the best model, we have the best processes, and other teams are looking for us to adopt and take what we have in place. So instead of just giving them that, why not just show them how it's done? And I think that we can do that. But first, we got to tackle the elephant in the room, which is EPIC, right? It's a big animal that we need to tame, and I think that what we have in place as far as our planning will allow us to tame that beast and get us to training for all HIT. So don't worry about this now. The next year, while we redesign the team, is where our focus will be on. But getting to here is really like what makes us even more marketable, right? So we just don't have experience with EPIC, we'll have experience with, I'm just throwing these names out there, so I haven't had conversations with anybody, but like, look, Kronos needs training, ServiceNow needs training, Genesis needs training. Those are just 3 off the top of my head, right? Who can do it better than us? Do we want to do it? Maybe not. But once we get EPIC obtained, then it opens the doors for other possibilities. And ultimately, I think our banner should be, we are saving lives through education, right? So we are saving lives through education. We're not just a tip sheet creator. We're not just a CBL creator. We're not just a sharer of information. We are actually helping our clinicians to save lives by learning how to use these systems to their advantage. And there's no one else that can do it better than us. All right.
Can I ask a
Yep.
question from that last slide? So for,
This
right
one?
now, the lovely trainers are SMEs in Epic. Does that mean in 2 years, they're now gonna have to be SMEs and other things?
Yes.
Because I can tell you right now, being a SME on multiple things is hard.
It is. So there's an opportunity for us to have like a subdivision, right? Some of these teams, and I'm talking way ahead of myself, and I feel Kate's gleam. No, but some of those teams have trainers.
So we would just support them by creating
Well,
CDL, and then they would train
there's a lot of conversations that would have to happen.
Yeah.
But I would love for us to absorb that and them, right? But again, I haven't had a conversation with anybody, so don't go telling Carl. Hey, they say, well, you come over to us. 'Cause this is way in advance. Court and then Aaron.
So with all that in mind, would it make sense to break out from just those two teams we were split into before and also have a project team in order to coordinate with all those outside teams and kind of do intake processes and management for all the stuff we'll have going on?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Or at least more project management.
Yeah.
I was thinking, we have, a great project coordinator as well, but, again, you know, as the work is, changes, we have to continue to look at, how we're meeting the need. So, even while moving to this design, even though I think this is sustainable long-term, there's always gonna be an opportunity to look at what we're doing to optimize it. But that's a great thought. Aaron?
I was just gonna say, I was on the birth of Genesis and I was the trainer along with Brandon once he joined the team. So I can attest that it is very difficult, but it's manageable. And I think that that perspective will help us to our goal in 2 years.
I'm just thinking, because working at the HIT service desk, even back then, there was a lot that we had to know. And it was very hard, because you were basically the jack of all trades, but the SME of nothing. Because to go from Epic, which is hard enough, and then all of a sudden, from next day you're teaching Genesis, next day you're teaching Chronos.
Understood, yeah.
That's what I was concerned about, not anything else.
Well, we would want to be mindful that, these changes don't happen like next day. There'll be a lead way, for us to learn and, more discussion because we're talking about this conceptually.
Yeah.
Emily?
Conceptually, that sounds really exciting. I think that we, at least in my little slice of the world, we hear about other training resources that deeply overlap with our own. And so this sounds for access like an excellent direction. So thank you for your work in visualizing a future that is more aligned, wherein I think there's so much noise that team members on the front end get with, you know, your connect emails, your project-based emails, leadership emails, and then when you think about the communication that comes from training, it needs to be very clear. It needs to be the easiest of the communications to digest, and when they're coming through multiple channels and different modalities and different teams, then it becomes very muddy. And I think that, you know, the front end teams pay in a lot of different ways, in challenges, and I think that we would serve them better, make their jobs easier, and thereby potentially, you know, really positively impact patient care.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Through that kind of alignment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emily. Tom?
Just a thought, would there be a place on one of these charts where we plug in with the analyst? I feel like a lot of training just bypasses, bypasses us, ends up in a binder, it's a Word document. And so we're missing some opportunities there, even to keep our ELL with current relevant material, just because we're not dialed into the analysts very well in some areas.
Yeah. What you're explaining is what executive leadership has surfaced from some of these listening tours as well. There's our intercommunication between different teams, actually it was our engagement surveys that said our intercommunications between teams could use some work. I think everybody here would agree with that. With that being said, there are some things that are happening in the background to improve that and to increase some collaboration. So you should be visually seeing some of those changes with the overall collaboration, specifically between the build team and training team. So definitely I'm looking forward to that change. All right, I'm at my last slide. I hear a bunch of grumbling, including my own. So I'll share an analogy that was shared with me when we started discussing the whole redesign. The analogy was, this is great, but my team members are drowning in the middle of the lake, and this is like we are at the dock saying, I'm here to help, swim to me, right? That's not necessarily helpful, right? You're still drowning in the middle of the lake. So, what I responded with another analogy. We need to throw a life preserver, to those folks so we can make this change happen. All of this is it's gonna be a lot of work. So the first things first is that we want to start looking at cross-training amongst the team as much as possible. There are some clinical applications, clinical training that takes place regularly that we're looking to shift. But considering the description of like their lives on a regular basis between content development, project work, training delivery, and there's that stuck on that hamster wheel, we need to get our hands on deck so that way we can shift these courses. It's going to be very, not impossible, but very taxing for a trainer to convert their classes but still keep up with the project work, the teaching, the curriculum development. It's just a lot. So we're looking to get everybody involved. So we've already started having discussions with some revenue cycle training team members who many have agreed that they'll be more than willing to become cross-credentialed, take some of that burden of teaching that class so that the other trainers could work on shift work to convert the class. So there's opportunities for us to get credentialed in these additional applications. There was a question that came to me was, what's the point of being credentialed in an application if we're shifting the work? Well, the point of being credentialed in the application is so that you are still SME with regards to that curriculum, the application, and et cetera. And it also helps with market value for yourself as well, by having multiple applications under your belt. What it will also do is it make you more like a Kim. I'm picking on Kim. And she had a access background, right? She learned cadence, if I'm correct, okay? It was credentialed and certified in cadence, then also learned some clinical applications, and that made her a phenomenal trainer. Not saying that everybody else isn't, but she has both sides of the coin, if you will. So having both sides of the coin makes you more valuable, no pun intended with that. I'm sorry. But you know what I'm saying. So there's opportunities for us to cross-credential, and then also there's going to be opportunities for PTs or IDs or instructional designers to become cross-certified as well. So we've already started this process already, with regards to talking with the team. I want to give an applause to the revenue cycle training team who were getting shy away from the idea, but I don't know if I was proud of that. But you guys have said that you are more than willing to learn new applications, and that speaks a lot about you. So again, there is a process in place. Have patience with us while we get through this. I'll say this quickly and then we can get to the food. Again, you should expect surveys from us. You should expect some interviews specifically to these changes from us. Over the next 6 months, the leadership team will be nose down in working on some of these changes, the structural foundation of these changes. And we want to, at the January timeframe, if not sooner, we'll start to have bi-weekly kind of town hall meetings everybody can join, and we'll provide updates and provide summaries of those interviews and surveys, show how we're addressing those concerns, and then walk you through the process each step of the way, so that there won't be any surprises. So more to come, and I know that you guys have food, but we'll have some food, we'll have some questions. We can still talk about this a little bit more, and then you should expect a lot from us. I'm running out of words because I'm hungry. So, with that being said, we're concluding the State of the Union part of the retreat. I appreciate your patience while walking through this. I know I'm a little sleep deprived, honestly, so I'm struggling a little bit with words. But I appreciate your time and attention while we went through this. So let's get some food. What I would like to do also is, we got champagne, not really. We got sparkling grape juice, I think it is, and some shoots for those of you who want to participate. So I'd like to do just a quick toast after we get our food and we get together, and then we do just a quick toast, just the last year, and to where we're going, if you guys are all right with that. All right, I'm gonna give my throat a rest. Thank you guys.
You can email me, and I will tell my assistant to figure it out. Yeah, because this seems really like, I feel like the little bits that grab it, it's not always. But you wouldn't mind, or I could just make a note, but you certainly could email me and tell me when you're interested, and if it's an ASAP, that's what do you see, or what do you think, and that type of thing. Someone I trust would just value your opinion. Yes, I'd love to do that. I've done slightly small mental. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, I would love to. So just shoot a note to me, and when it comes in, I'll let him know that, just flip it to him and say, find time. We do have vacation.
They're looking at profiles.
Oh, next week. So it might be, I'm like, I don't know. So it may just take a bit of time. Very,
Nothing, there are no decisions that need to be made.
okay.
mysterious.
All right. Yes, but always, you could always say, like, it'd be great if it could be within this amount of time, and I will try my best to accommodate it, but. Yeah, how are you doing with it? You want to start one?
Well, I hope it comes, because it'd be nice. I mean, everyone's being affected by the economy. Well, as soon as you guys,
Thank you. We have some issues. We're gonna communicate those to you.
new channels now. Yeah, I used to run up, Yes, yeah, that's, yeah.
There was a lot of questions.
Wow. So then, when you're talking about converting that to CDA, yeah.
Part of it was also